Chapter 289. Dark clouds gathered in the sky above the city. The dark clouds shrouded the tall buildings, and the slightly cold winter rain sprinkled down with some ice particles. In the sky, several kilometers away above the buildings under the dark clouds that seemed to be close to the roofs, two black dots flew like lightning bolts, dragging two white tails made of rain and air. Their speed was so fast that it was suffocating, as if they could break through the sound barrier. Two people. The other flying person seems to be Kong Teichu's wife. Apollo's eyes flashed with golden light as he clicked his tongue in wonder. Wuxia's qinggong in martial arts is so powerful. This speed, this extraordinary time in the air, is comparable to Butterfly Lady, Black-Winged Batu Wind Man and other flying-type arcanists. Apollo opened a violin case at his feet, and inside it was a golden longbow. The longbow was engraved with complex runes and vine-like plant lines, as if it was an exquisite work of art made by a master craftsman. Just based on its appearance, even people who knew nothing about the world of cultivation would think that it was definitely not an ordinary item. However, it's a pity that you met me. Whatever spiritual power or flying ability, when you meet my Helios golden bow, you will all die. When Apollo drew the golden longbow in his hand, golden flames began to burn and condense on the bow. A flame arrow condensed from crimson flames appeared on the golden string of the golden bow. I will kill you and achieve a greater reputation than Lin Zhenyu, and become the #1 magnate in the circle. Like Ho-E shooting the sun, Apollo drew the bow to a full moon and released the bowstring. The flame arrow carried a rumbling sound as it pierced through the rain, evaporating white smoke as it shot into the sky. In the air, the flame arrow was getting closer and closer. Jiang Tian and Qing'er used their movement techniques, and like dragons playing with phoenixes, their bodies flipped up and down, dodging the flame arrow. Boom! The flame arrow missed, but 3 kilometers away the top of a building was grazed by the flame arrow. Suddenly the wall collapsed and the top 3 floors exploded as if they were bombarded by a cannonball. Beside the Qinhuai River, which was only a few kilometers away from the Yuhua Stone Park, there was a vast manor that was brightly lit and filled with distinguished guests. Anyone who was familiar with the upper class of Jinling would know that this manor was overseen by a powerful figure who could shake Jinling and even the entire Su province. Jinling Su Zhenlei. In the past few years that Su Zhenlei had been in seclusion, this manor had never been as lively as it was today. Only an old servant and Su Ruoqing were present. But at this moment, all the overlords in Jinling and even Su province were gathered there to congratulate Su Zhenlei. Because today this peerless powerhouse who had suppressed Jinling for decades had finally come out of seclusion, and his cultivation technique had reached the large success stage. Father, you should have reached the peak of the transcendent state after 5 years of seclusion, right? Sitting down, Su Ruoqing raised her wine glass and toasted her father with a smile, but there was a trace of bitterness in the depths of her eyes. Now, Jiang Tian's forces had already taken control of Jinling, and he was also controlled by Jiang Tian's heart bursting with joy charm. He didn't even dare to mention his father's grand declaration of unifying Jinling on the day he broke out of seclusion. The peak of transcendent state. It's not that easy. An old man in his 60s was sitting on the armchair. He was wearing a purple silk training suit, and his silver hair was combed into a slick back hairstyle. On his thumb was an antique imperial glass-type ring. He looked around with a smile and his eyes were as sharp as a hawk's. He was indeed a formidable figure whose name had shaken Jinling for decades. Once you reach the transcendent state, you will be called a grandmaster. As for those who have reached the peak of the transcendent state, Wuxia can only count them with 2 hands. They are as rare as phoenix feathers and unicorn horns. For example, Lin Zhenyu of the Great Circle, Huqing Tian of the Central Plains, Yi Wudao of the Jiangxia province, Wu Yingxiong of the southwest, and Li Tuofeng of the northwest. Which one of them isn't a powerful existence? He shook his head a little regretfully and said, if I reach the peak of the transcendent state, I can sweep the entire Su province in minutes. I can even wrestle with Yi Wudao and take down Jiangxia and Zhonghai. Su Ruoqing wanted to say something but stopped. Her old father had been in seclusion for too long, and he didn't know that the world of martial arts had undergone earth-shaking changes. Li Tuofeng and Lin Zhenyu had both fallen in the Martial Arts Society convention last year. Su Zhenlei's face showed a hint of pride and said, however, I have reached the peak of the transcendent state during my seclusion this time. I can defeat ordinary internal force experts in one move. I think that Master Kong, whom you all have been talking about, is only at my level. Dad. Su Ruoqing's face was awkward. Jiang Tian could even kill Lin Zhenyu with one move. How could her father be as powerful as him? Ruoqing, you don't have to say it. I have already received the report. A sharp glint flashed in Su Zhenlei's eyes. He said coldly that Master Kong has defeated the Nye family and other forces. He has dominated Jingling, and even you have to be cautious. However, after I come out of seclusion, I will behead that Master Kong and conquer Jingling. He had reached the peak of the transcendent state He felt that no one in Wuxia could stop him except for Hu Qingtian. As for Master Kong, he could kill him with one move. Dad, please don't. Su Ruoqing was about to tell her father about Jiang Tian's power. Suddenly a loud boom came from afar. Then the earth shook as if there was an earthquake. What is it? It's late at night. Why is there an explosion? Everyone rose to their feet and looked out of the window. Fear was written all over their faces, but they couldn't see anything clearly. However, Su Zhenlei had reached the peak of the transcendent state and his senses were far sharper than ordinary people. There is a fight between two powerful overlords. Su Zhenlei's face darkened. He walked out of the door and leaped onto the roof of the mansion. He looked toward the direction of the Yuhua Terrace. Su Ruoqing and many other experts also came up, looking at the two sides fighting with fear on their faces. I didn't hit him. Apollo, the god of sun, was taken aback. The next moment, rays of golden light rose from under his feet. His body grew taller and taller, reaching a height of dozens of meters in an instant. He floated in the air like a deity. By then Jiang Tian and his wife had also reached the top of the Yuhua Terrace. They were only a few hundred meters away from Apollo and they stood face to face. Jiang Tian said lazily, Apollo, you are just a legend. Do you really think you are a deity? How dare you offend the Jiang family and cause trouble in Wuxia? You must be tired of living. Don't be so arrogant, you brat. I don't believe that I can't hit you. Apollo roared and pulled the bowstring to the fullest. A flaming arrow pierced through the air and pierced through the rain, leaving a trail of white steam in its wake. The flaming arrow covered the distance of a few hundred meters in a blink of an eye. It was as if the flaming arrow was still on the bowstring a moment ago, and the next moment, it was right in front of Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian didn't dodge at all. While Qing'er's pure phoenix immortal body's true essence rose steadily and soared into the sky. Suddenly, a hemispherical translucent golden shield appeared around the two of them. The flame-like brilliance flowed on the shield, looking extremely gorgeous. Qing'er and Jiang Tian were mentally connected. She knew that although Jiang Tian's cultivation method was powerful, his body was still mortal. However, she had the advantage of the immortal body's protective aura, which was much stronger than Jiang Tian's ability to withstand attacks. The tyrannical scarlet flame arrow was actually blocked by the barrier. Then starting from the arrowhead, it was as if it was being devoured bit by bit. Sparks flew everywhere and shattered inch by inch until it was finally worn out. What is that? Qi cultivation into Qi shield. Su Zhen was horrified. How could there be a shield that could devour the flaming arrow? In the sky, Apollo couldn't believe it. He took a step back and shook his head. Impossible, how is this possible? What the hell is that? Many years ago, Apollo was besieged by the super soldiers of the United States of America's Blue Storm. Those super soldiers were equipped with the most advanced kinetic skeletons made of titanium alloy. They were all armed to the teeth and could fly in the sky and burrow into the ground. However, Apollo only used 3 arrows to kill all the super soldiers. The titanium alloy armor even melted into liquid. Among the 7 tycoons of the Great Circle, Apollo was the most unconvinced of Lin Zhenyu's strength and thought that he could kill him with 1 arrow. However, since they were on the same side, they didn't have the chance to fight. This time when Jiang Tian came, he was actually more excited than scared. He was determined to win. If he could kill Jiang Tian, who had killed Lin Zhenyu, he would be the most powerful fighter in the Hong sect. But now, the situation that was originally under his control suddenly changed. This made Apollo very angry. He raised the golden longbow in his hand again and pulled out a flame arrow. I don't believe that this arrow can't pierce through you. The white light under his feet flickered as he shot up into the sky again. Amidst the drifting drizzle, he suddenly pulled open the golden longbow. The golden bowstring tightened and released again. 4 flame arrows condensed on the bowstring and shot out in unison. 4 flame arrows shot towards Zhou Xian and his wife, who were standing in the middle of the winter rain like lightning. Apollo's feet stepped on the golden light as he dashed around Zhou Xian and his wife. Since speed was the key, there was no reason for him to stop. Apollo leaned forward like a leopard and turned into a flash of light. With Zhou Xian and his wife as the center, he drew a circle of golden light. During this process, the bowstring buzzed and vibrated. One after another, the flame arrows were shot out in a concentrated manner. In the blink of an eye, he had fired 23 flaming arrows. These flaming arrows were more violent than the previous ones, but they were not hot at all. Unlike the previous flaming arrow, they were calm and steady. However, when these flaming arrows were 3 meters away from Zhou Xian, they suddenly heated up. The air around the flaming arrows was distorted and blurred. Drops of cold winter rain turned into puffs of green smoke as if they had been dropped into an invisible pot of hot oil. 23 flaming arrows came from all directions. They were getting closer and closer to Zhou Xian and his wife's protective light shield. 3 meters. 2 meters. 1 meter. After a meter, under Apollo's expectant gaze and his excited cry of "explode," they all exploded at the same time. These were not ordinary flaming arrows. They were explosive arrows. The sun's energy was concentrated and it only exploded at the last moment. Such explosive arrows could even vaporize special metals. They could even kill count-level members of the Blood Clan and Wuxia's martial arts transcendent masters easily, not to mention 23 of them. I believe that not even a drop of blood or a wisp of ash will be left behind. Apollo roared happily in his heart. Then he cursed in frustration. Fuck, I forgot to record this wonderful video. Chapter 290. The torrential winter rain fell 3 meters above the chi shield of the Phoenix Maiden immortal body. It was as if it was pulled by an invisible force and became slanted. If it moved a little closer, it would splash out. The chi shield of the Phoenix Maiden immortal body was like a transparent giant umbrella, blocking the bitter wind and rain outside. My wife is so powerful. You left me far behind. I admire you. Zhou Xian seemed to have not realized the danger that was close at hand, and he made an exaggerated expression of wanting to cry but having no tears. It could be said that the power of the stainless phoenix fairy body was beyond Zhou Xian's imagination. The chi shield had already held on for a minute. Qing'er rolled her eyes at him as if she found his flirty talk boring. When the 23 flame arrows exploded at the same time, Qing'er's pretty face slightly trembled. Her cherry lips slightly opened and she shouted, "Break!" Before the voice had even faded, the 23 flame arrows all strangely stopped in the air, unable to move an inch further. The still image was very strange. It still maintained a certain moment of the explosion process. The flame arrows were like bright red flowers blooming around the chi shield, trembling slightly and swaying. In fact, this image only lasted for less than a second. The next moment, the chi shield suddenly expanded, swelling and vibrating. Bang! The flame arrows were no slower than the previous ones and shot out like a fairy scattering flowers. Zhao Xueqing's shout of "break" seemed to be able to transcend the scope of space and time, rising hundreds of meters high in the sky. At the same time, it sounded like thunder in Su Zhenlei's sea of qi. Dong, 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 dong. Su Zhenlei felt as if his heart was being held by an invisible hand and began to beat violently like a war drum. His body trembled and he spat out a mouthful of blood. Feng Yi was awe-inspiring. This was a kind of spiritual pressure. Once used, it could suppress a transcendent grandmaster. Then Su Zhenlei saw a flame arrow explode after being knocked away by the chi shield. Dodge! Su Zhenlei, who couldn't dodge in time, screamed and punched out like a cannonball. Boom! An earth-shattering sound came as Su Zhenlei was sent flying 7 or 8 meters away. A large part of the roof collapsed. Oh darling, it seems that we hurt the onlookers. Zhao Xueqing was so shocked that her face turned pale. She was very upset. Even though she had awakened her immortal physique and become a supreme beauty, the gentleness and kindness in her heart had never changed. Don't worry, I won't die. I think it's Su Ruoqing's father. Zhang Tian said lightly. When Apollo detonated the flame arrow, he had used his psychic energy to control it. Now that the flame arrow had bounced back, it was a serious blow to his psychic energy and physical body. He fell to the ground like a silly quail whose wings had been broken and spat out a mouthful of blood. Apollo jumped to his feet, his whole body trembling with anger. Kong Teichu, what's going on? Tell me, what is this? What is it? An idiot like you won't be able to understand this. A piece of trash like you wants to kill me? You're far from Lin Zhenyu's level. Jiang Tian sneered and said with disdain, since you've shot so many arrows, it should be my turn. I won't accept this. Go to hell. Apollo was burning with rage. He raised the Helios golden bow in his hand and started to draw an arrow with his right hand. A platinum-colored flame arrow appeared out of thin air. This arrow could kill even a half-step immortal state cultivator. On the roof of the mansion, Zhou Xian was alarmed. This arrow was much more terrifying than the flame arrow earlier. Just the condensation and formation of the flame arrow was enough to crack the rocks under Apollo's feet inch by inch. Some of them even melted into boiling hot lava. Suddenly, everyone was shocked to see, from the dense forest, a white beam of light shot up into the sky, illuminating half of the sky and tearing the thick curtain of night into many pieces. Then the beam of light flashed and shot towards Jiang Tian. Jing'er, let's work together. Unleash the flame arrow. Jiang Tian raised his eyebrows and sent a telepathic message. Hey hubby. Telepathic messages were much faster than verbal messages. Jing'er had sensed Jiang Tian's intention the moment he had thought of it. Then her eyes flashed with golden light. She used the flame arrow of the phoenix eyes and a 5-meter-wide golden flame was condensed. Whoosh. Jiang Tian caught the flame and condensed it into a blade. Whoosh. With a sound, a 10-meter-long crescent-shaped flame arrow slashed down from the sky like a shooting star. This flame chi weapon? He's like an immortal. Zhou Xian was shocked and his heart sank to the bottom. He couldn't even resist Jing'er's shout, let alone Jiang Tian's flame chi weapon. Only a half-step immortal state cultivator could unleash the true chi of the 5 elements. Once a martial artist entered the immortal state, he would be like an ant. At this moment, all the talk about challenging Jiang Tian and unifying the Jinling city, these lofty aspirations and hot-bloodedness disappeared faster than a pile of cow dung in winter. Is this Lady Jiang? She is indeed a peerless beauty. Only she is worthy of Grandmaster Jiang. Su Ruoqing looked up at the 2 figures in the sky. There was no jealousy in her eyes, only endless admiration. She only felt that they were like an immortal couple. This kind of beautiful thing always made people want to look at it more. The improper thoughts she had towards Jiang Tian that she had hidden in the bottom of her heart also collapsed and crumbled at this moment. Boom. The platinum-like flame arrow, which could pierce through a giant ship, was cut in half by the Li fire chi weapon as if it was made of paper. Then the flame chi weapon came down violently. You can't kill me. Apollo raised his bow to block the attack. At the same time, his body expanded with golden light. But it was useless. The golden bow and arrow flew out of Apollo's hand, and the protective golden light was useless. Amidst the gushing blood and a shrill scream, Apollo's right arm and shoulder were chopped off and fell to the ground. The Phoenix Goddess immortal body was one of the 12 immortal bodies in the cultivation world. The flame chi from this body could melt gold and iron. Could not burn anything. No matter how strong Apollo was, he was just immortal. How could he resist it? This was the terrifying power of the Immaculate Phoenix Goddess immortal body. You dare to kill me? I am Prince William, one of the 12 main gods of the Western Palace of Gods, Apollo. Seeing Jiang Tian coming closer, Apollo was terrified. He wanted to scare Jiang Tian away. I'm so scared. My little heart can't take it anymore. Jiang Tian smirked, his finger light hit the air without any hesitation. Bang! Apollo's head exploded like a berry. Red and white matter sprayed all over the ground. Apollo, one of the 12 main gods of the Palace of Gods and one of the 7 giants of the Great Circle, was dead. When Zhou Xian leaped over, he saw this shocking scene. Master Kong. Zhou Xian was scared out of his wits. Like a primary school student meeting his teacher, he bowed respectfully. He was scared to death. This Master Kong was too strong. He killed a peerless expert like Apollo with just 1 slash. I'm sorry, my wife injured you just now. Here are 2 pills for you. Jiang Tian casually threw out a pill bottle and smiled, revealing his white teeth. But in Zhou Xian's eyes, Zhang Tian was no different from a giant beast with its mouth wide open. He was so scared that he almost jumped up. It's okay. Thank you, Master Kong, for giving me the pills. Su Zhenlei trembled as he knelt on the ground and kowtowed. Let's go, Qinga. Zhang Tian smiled warmly as he held his beloved wife's hand, and then his figure flashed and vanished in the veil of night like a ghost. When the great changes in Jinling were announced on the dark web and spread to the west, the whole dark world was shocked. If Zhang Tian killed Master Qing Lian and the rest on the peak of Mount Everest, he only suppressed the forces in Southeast Asia. This time, the massacre in Jinling suppressed many forces in the world. On the dark web there were screams and cries of shock. The #1 assassin organization in Asia, Dark Shadow, including Wan Kuan and the Berserk Ape, was wiped out. The elites of the Butterfly Skull and their ace assassin Rattlesnake were wiped out. The famous Transcendent Eye in the United States lost 5 elites, including Jin Taishian. The Blackwater mercenaries lost more than 20 elites, including Satan. Bloody and Totem were even more upset. A blood descendant at the level of an earl could fight a martial Dao master. For them, Anthony was a rare and powerful pillar, but he died just like that. It was a great loss. Dozens of famous assassins and mercenaries on the Royal Assassin leaderboard were killed. Hundreds of top assassins gathered in Jinling were wiped out overnight. None of them escaped. The most terrifying thing was that none of the Dark World elites managed to escape. One had to know that these experts were all wanted by the police of various countries. They were best at running for their lives, but all of them had still fallen. This showed how powerful Jiang Taichu was and how ruthless he was. The news was like a magnitude 12 earthquake to those who participated in the assassination and those who did not. In fact, apart from killing Zhang Tian, the elites came to Jinling to test the strength of the Huaxiaolong formation and martial Dao. After all, for a long time Wuxia was considered to be a forbidden place for mercenaries and assassins. However, it was such a huge market that everyone wanted to take over. Many forces were paying close attention to this incident. If the elites from the Dark World won and escaped unscathed, they would be able to do business in Wuxia. Who would have thought that the Dragon Group didn't even make a move, but their lineup, which could only be described as heaven-defying, was completely annihilated in China overnight. This made them even more terrified and fearful of that mysterious country. In the middle of the last century, before and after the founding of Wuxia, the West suffered a great loss in the earth-shattering war. They thought that after decades of recuperation and hiding their strength, they had the capital and strength to make a comeback. However, this assassination had shattered all their confidence. Then another piece of breaking news came. Golden Scorpion and Apollo, 2 of the 7 leaders of the Great Circle, participated in the battle and encountered Kong Taichu. Both of them were killed by Kong Taichu. Apollo's identity was also exposed. He was one of the 12 main gods in the European pantheon, a real leader. Even these 2 were dead. For a time, countless assassins and mercenaries from the Dark World were trembling in fear. The $500 million bounty became a hot potato, and no one dared to accept it. The entire Dark World was shrouded in sadness and worry. How many experts wouldn't seek revenge for the smallest grievance? They did not kill him this time. Once he recovered, they were afraid that he would launch a crazy revenge. Chapter 291. West, Mount Olympus, Pantheon of the Gods. It was majestic and filled with holy light. A mighty and imposing figure sat on a golden throne inlaid with gems. He looked down at the many experts below the platform and said in a dignified voice, "You're right. Apollo has fallen in Wuxia, but we, the Pantheon of the Gods, will never take revenge. He was the father of the gods, the strongest powerhouse in the Western Arcana world." Zeus. Artemis, also one of the 12 main gods, frowned with hatred. Why not? This is the first time in 100 years that a main god has fallen. This is a great humiliation to us. We must launch a bloody revenge. Apollo betrayed the Pantheon, became a fighter for the Great Circle, and even colluded with the blood breeds. This is even more humiliating for us. Zeus's majestic eyes flashed with divine light, suppressing the doubts and dissatisfaction of all the powerhouses. Even Artemis was shocked and took a step back. Zeus said with hatred, "If Kong Taichu hadn't killed him, we wouldn't even know of his connection with the Great Circle. Immediately contact Yi Zhantian of the Huaxiaolong formation, express our friendship and goodwill, and express our strong condemnation of the Great Circle on the international stage. Yes. Below the stage, the Western powerhouses responded in unison. Las Vegas, still in the luxurious conference room. However, the atmosphere of this meeting was particularly dull, filled with a pessimistic and horrifying atmosphere. Wuxia's military must have made a move, or even Xianxia himself. Otherwise, Golden Scorpion and Apollo would not have fallen. Little Five, the head of North America, said with hatred. Intelligence shows that Jiang Tian has a close relationship with the Wuxia military. He once served as a martial arts consultant for Zhanlong and also provided a large number of special drugs to the military. Many of the powerhouses said nothing. If Jiang Tian was only strong individually, it would not matter. After all, no matter how strong he was, how could he compare to a super-organization like the Great Circle? But if he had the backing of a major country, it was too scary. Sixth Old Man Fan was silent for a long time with a gloomy face before waving his hand sadly. First, remove the hidden flower bounty and stop all activities in Wuxia. All members of the Great Circle will withdraw from the Wuxia market. Everyone nodded their heads speechlessly. Little Five pondered for a moment before suggesting, Sixth Master Fan, let's start using the Great Turtle Island base in the Pacific Ocean. I'm afraid it's not safe here. Bullshit. Big Turtle Island, Big Turtle Island. Do you want me to be a coward? Sixth Old Man Fan flew into a rage and smashed his beloved antique purple clay cup, which was worth millions of yuan, onto the ground, causing it to shatter. Big Turtle Island was a private island that Big Circle had purchased with a large sum of money. There were many fortifications built on top of it, and there were thousands of private soldiers. Moreover, the base was located 100 meters below the ground, so it was not afraid of rocket artillery attacks. It could even withstand Dongfeng penetrating missiles. During the long development of the Great Circle, there had been a period of more than 20 years when it was considered an illegal organization. They had set up their headquarters there for fear of being ambushed by powerful experts or suppressed by large countries. However, the circle grew too strong and became a legal organization and enterprise. Sixth Master Fan could even lobby the United States Congress and drink and chat with important politicians, who would be willing to hide in the dark underground. Therefore, they moved their headquarters to the Lisboa International Casino in Las Vegas, where they enjoyed the prosperity of the world. It was not easy for them to come to the light of day, but now they had to move back and become a rat in the dark again. How could Sixth Master Fan take it? He was so angry that he was about to explode. Sixth Master Fan, please calm down. I know my mistake. Little Five was so scared that his face turned pale. He knelt on the ground and trembled. This kind of organization was like an independent kingdom, and its hierarchy was strict. If Sixth Master Fan wanted to kill him, no one could stop him. Get out. Sixth Master Fan waved his hand and coughed violently. All the big shots retreated in fear. Sixth Master, are you moving or not? At this time, a seductive Chinese woman walked out from the side room and asked in a coquettish voice. Move. Move quickly. Prepare a private plane, we're leaving now. Sixth Master Fan's anger dissipated, but the more he thought about it, the more afraid he became. He quickly got up and rushed to the private airport under the protection of many powerhouses like a rat crossing the street. Just like that, Jiang Tian joined hands with Qing'er and bathed Jinling in blood. With the deaths of more than 100 experts in 23 batches as a signal, the strongest voice was sent to the dark world, truly becoming famous internationally. Kung Te Chu. This three-word song had finally become a taboo name in the hearts of many dark world organizations. When Hidden Flowers bounty on the dark web was removed, many experts were in an uproar, their hearts palpitating. From the actions of the sun god Apollo and the golden scorpion, everyone could tell that this was the dark net of the Big Circle. On one hand, there were only a few organizations in the world that could afford 500 million USD. They were limited to the Cherry Blossom Society, the Chinese Society of Singapore, and the Big Circle. On the other hand, Kang Techu had killed one of the 7 big shots of the Big Circle, Lin Zhenyu. They already had a grudge against each other, and this time 2 of the Big Circle's experts were involved. Lin Zhenyu was also a super big shot, but he had lost to Yi Zhantian and went into seclusion for 20 years. His influence in the dark world had gradually faded and his name was not as well known. But the Golden Scorpion and Apollo were different. They were very active and had a glorious record. They could be said to be world-renowned. Especially Apollo, who was also one of the 12 main gods of the Hall of Gods, was even more famous than Lin Zhenyu. But these two big shots of the dark world died in the hands of Kong Teichu. They were killed with a single slash and even their heads were blown off. Anyone who saw the photo of Apollo's corpse was terrified. What was more frightening was that the big circle did not increase the reward and take revenge. Instead, they chose to remove the dark net and even moved their headquarters to Big Turtle Island. This made people speculate. It was too shocking. It can be said that Kong Teichu alone suppressed the famous Big Circle. Which organization dares to provoke such a powerful expert? In the future, no one will accept Kong Teichu's orders. No, don't even go to Wuxia anymore. Such discussions were everywhere on the dark net, and after the Big Circle removed the dark net, it became even more chaotic and reached its peak. For a moment, many strong people of the dark world were shocked when they heard the name Kong Teichu. At this time, a day and a night had passed since the bloodbath in Jinling. The Jiang family mansion, which was like a typhoon, had been repaired and restored to its original state. In the study, Jiang Tian sat on a rocking chair. On the coffee table were the heavenly court black sword, Gengjin iron rod, the set of armor and Apollo's golden longbow. King, these are all treasures. Which one do you like? Jiang Tian asked with a smile. He had continuously swallowed healing and qi-nourishing medicine. After the bloodbath in Jinling, the medicine circulated throughout his body and nourished his organs. His true yuan was abundant, and his physique and cultivation had been completely restored. Can't I have all of them? Qing'er leaned against Jiang Tian and smiled mischievously. Haha, of course. Jiang Tian looked up and laughed. He was overjoyed to feel Qing'er's drastic change. This change was not only in terms of strength but also in terms of mentality. She was more cheerful and confident than before. It was as if the life that was originally curled up had completely unfolded. I'm kidding. Qing'er smiled and patted Jiang Tian's head. Baby, you're too weak. I'll leave these armor and weapons for you to protect yourself. Big sister is so powerful. You don't need them. Jiang Tian wanted to cry but had no tears. However, he also knew that Qing'er was telling the truth, so he did not hold back. He summoned flames and spent a day of hard work using various materials to carve a flying array, a protective wind array, a transformation array and many other arrays on the sword. The flying array could convert the vast spiritual energy between heaven and earth into kinetic energy for the treasured sword. It could even break the sound barrier. And the protective wind array was necessary. It could protect the user from the interference of the airflow. Otherwise, it would be very easy to form an afro like the punk. And the transformation array was a temporary measure that Jiang Tian did not have a storage artifact. Once the array was activated, he could become the size of a needle. Mortals would not be able to see him at all. He could even avoid X-rays and pass through airport security. After all, in modern society, carrying a treasured sword in broad daylight would seem too chunibu. If he enlarged it, it would be a long sword that was 10 feet long. Only then would it be convenient to fly. In addition, there were concealment arrays, noise reduction arrays, and so on. Finally, he branded his own divine sense and turned the heavenly quartz black sword into his own flying sword. When the divine sense branding was completed, Jiang Tian immediately felt a connection with the heavenly quartz black sword. The black sword was like a butterfly, happily flying up and down around Jiang Tian. It was extremely agile. Wow, it can fly by itself. Qing'er was amazed. She was deeply impressed by the profoundness of cultivation. Go! Jiang Tian's divine sense moved. Swish! There was a sharp sound. The black sword drew a streak of light and shot into the sky. It instantly turned into a small black dot and disappeared. It had completely surpassed the speed of sound. Return! Jiang Tian shouted. The black sword seemed to appear out of thin air and flew in front of Jiang Tian. From now on, I will call you Little Black Sword. Jiang Tian held the hilt of the sword and felt a sense of pride. Could be said that with this flying sword his combat power would increase tenfold. He would not be afraid of even half a step away from the immortal state. Then Jiang Tian refined the Gengjin iron rod again. The art of the rod was about being domineering and fierce. As the saying goes, the rod can sweep through a large area. However, what Jiang Tian liked was an elegant and otherworldly fighting style. Thus, he sharpened the two ends of the iron staff and thickened the middle, forming a black iron flying shuttle. There were also countless small formation runes inscribed on it. When Zhang Tian was done with all this, he branded all the Dharma treasures with his divine sense and made them his and Immerse Dharma treasures. It was already the next morning. To his surprise, the big-breasted policewoman Lin Menghan, who he met by chance at the gas station, rushed in with a few police officers. Zhang Tian, you are suspected of organizing illegal activities and multiple murders. You are under arrest. Upon entering the living room, Lin Menghan said arrogantly with a frosty expression. Chapter 292. Zhang Tian sipped his tea and frowned in disgust. Where's the arrest warrant? This? Lin Menghan was slightly stunned, a little embarrassed and annoyed. Hooligans these days were quite knowledgeable about the law. Actually, she had been keeping an eye on Zhang Tian for a long time. Dozens of people from the Nye family and the other two big families had died overnight. Lei Ming and Lei Gang had also died without knowing why. She suspected that all these had something to do with Zhang Tian. But what made her angry was that her leader did not support her investigation and did not even allow her to access the files. Her investigation could be said to be difficult and full of difficulties. It seemed that the police force was rotten to the core. She understood that Zhang Tian's power was not to be underestimated. The Zhang family's assets were worth tens of billions and had become the biggest family in Jinling. As the crown prince of the Medicine King Group, Zhang Tian was also the founder of Fersky Laboratory and a visiting professor. He had a distinguished status and a powerful background. But the more this was the case, the more the righteous policewoman hated Zhang Tian. She decided that she had to get hold of Zhang Tian's weakness and then follow the clues to get rid of all the parasites in the police force. Especially the night before, hundreds of foreigners had died in Jinling. They were suspected to be assassins and mercenaries targeting the Zhang family. Coupled with the fact that Zhang Tian had been attacked at the gas station, she was even more convinced that Zhang Tian was the culprit. Then I'll ask you to assist in the investigation. Lin Menghan's eyes flashed and she asked coldly, May I ask if you were the one who killed more than 100 people last night? Yes, what do you want? Zhang Tian raised his eyebrows and looked at her indifferently, disdainfully. What? You actually admitted it? Lin Menghan could not believe that this kid did not take her seriously. Then she scolded with a serious face. Then you're a suspect and I want to arrest you. Please cooperate. The night before, more than 10 assassins with guns broke into the Zhang family and the Medicine King Group. Zhang Tian asked with an indifferent expression, I would like to ask, when my Zhang family was under attack and was in danger, where were you, Officer Lin? Lin Menghan was embarrassed. She then said angrily, I'm arresting you now, not you. She pulled out her pistol and pointed it at Zhang Tian. Kneel on the ground and put your hands on your head. Don't resist or I'll kill you immediately. Do you think you're the only one who knows about the people I killed? Where's your leader? Why didn't he come and arrest me? Zhang Tian's expression remained unchanged as he sneered. Why? Lin Menghan asked subconsciously. She also felt that it was strange. In fact, her father had reminded her not to get involved in any cases related to Zhang Tian, but she was not convinced. She thought that her father was scared of Zhang Tian. You can't resist external insults. You only know how to bully your own people. Think about it. Zhang Tian couldn't be bothered to pay attention to her and sneered. What did you say? In Jinling and even in the Su province, Lin Menghan was known as the #1 policewoman. She was skilled in her work and was very capable. Her father was also the deputy head of the provincial police department. Many young men pursued her. This had nurtured her arrogant personality. When had she ever been treated so coldly? Lin Menghan almost exploded when she heard this. She couldn't help but think of the time when she was beaten up by Rattlesnake at the gas station. Zhang Tian, if you don't cooperate, I'll kill you. Lin Menghan unlocked the safety of her pistol. Her face was frosty as she spoke righteously. Don't think that you're so great just because you're the young master of the Medicine King Group. Don't think that just because you have a few officials protecting you, you can do whatever you want. I've caught so many hedonistic young masters like you, vermin of society. What are you being so arrogant for? Yes, she thought that with her father's connections she could definitely take down Zhang Tian. No matter how strong the Medicine King Group was, it was just a business. The difference between business and government was too great. Big boobs. Brainless. Jiang Tian stared at her chest for a long time, then suddenly laughed disdainfully. Lin Menghan could tell that Jiang Tian wasn't teasing her. There was no desire in his eyes at all. There was not even the slightest bit of appreciation. There was only endless disdain and indifference. Yes, the body and appearance that she was so proud of was just a joke and a flaw in Jiang Tian's eyes. In his eyes, she wasn't even worth as much as a cow. Jiang Tianyu. Realizing this, the policewoman had the urge to go berserk. She couldn't wait to beat Jiang Tian into a sieve. Don't disturb me while I'm drinking tea. Get out of here. Jiang Tian frowned in disgust. Mr. Jiang. At this moment, 3 figures walked in. Dad. Lin Menghan was shocked. She saw Secretary Yu and her father, who was the deputy director, walking in with a female officer. Why are you pointing a gun at Mr. Jiang? Xu Wei frowned and asked unhappily. Wow, what a handsome policewoman. Xu Wei was tall and beautiful. She was valiant and had a refined temperament. She had the aura of someone from a wealthy family. Looking at her epaulets, she was already a colonel. All of this made Lin Menghan, who thought highly of herself, feel ashamed of her inferiority. Her eyes were intoxicated and she was a little dazed. I'm asking you. Answer me. Xu Wei scolded harshly, scaring Lin Menghan to the point that her entire body quivered. Sir, I'm here to arrest him. He's a suspect. 2 nights ago. Lin Menghan shrank like a quail and hurriedly reported. Flap. Xu Wei raised her hand and slapped Lin Menghan. Who do you think you are? How dare a black bitch arrest Mr. Jiang? Black bitch was an insulting term used by soldiers to call police officers. Calling her a bitch was an insult to the extreme. Lin Menghan's mouth was bleeding from the slap. She staggered, shocked, angry, embarrassed, and resentful. However, she was more confused. Why did she hit her? What was the relationship between Jiang Tian and her? Flustered and exasperated, she flailed her arms and legs and shouted angrily, What right do you have to hit me? Just because he's the young master of the Medicine King group. How dare you hit me? Just because you have a relationship you can bully others? She looked at Deputy Director Lin for help. She wanted her father to uphold justice for her and suppress Xu Wei and Jiang Tian. Little did she know that Deputy Director Lin was already scared out of his wits by Secretary Yu's angry gaze. In his heart he wanted to kick this brainless and disappointing girl to death. He was so angry that his whole body was trembling. He had warned her time and time again, but she still... Shut up. Haven't you caused enough trouble? Without another word he slapped Lin Menghan's face. Her delicate cheeks swelled up and a few clear fingerprints could be seen on her face. This time Lin Menghan was really stunned. Her father had always doted on her. When did he hit her so hard? With tears welling up in her eyes, Lin Menghan heard Xu Wei say angrily, You want to ask me why I hit you? Then I'll tell you. It's not because of personal feelings or Mr. Jiang's status. It's because everything Mr. Jiang did was authorized by the military. Authorized by the military? What? Lin Menghan's worldview was shattered. He could not believe it. The leader of an evil force, a person who killed people like flies, was authorized by the military? Mr. Jiang, this is the National Hero Medal awarded by the central government. It's to commend you for defending against the invaders and solving a big problem for us. Xu Wei presented the dazzling military medal and certificate, and then smacked Jiang Tian. She gave a standard military salute with respect in her eyes. National Hero Medal. At that moment Lin Menghan was dumbfounded. Her soul almost left her body. The few police officers behind her were scared out of their wits. They felt that Lin Menghan was a jinx. What a scam. The National Hero Medal was not an ordinary medal. It was awarded to professional soldiers who had made a significant contribution. Moreover, the military rank was usually higher than a major general. Could it be that he was a major general? Lin Menghan only felt that the world was spinning. Her face was as white as a sheet. Cold sweat poured down her body and her legs turned to jelly. If she had fired that shot just now, she would probably be dead. Oh God, she actually pointed a gun at a National Hero Medal recipient. She must be tired of living. Why aren't you all leaving? Secretary Yu waved his hand impatiently. This Lin Menghan was brainless and undisciplined. Did she treat the orders of the higher-ups as a joke? The higher-ups had repeatedly ordered her to come and cause trouble. She could not be used anymore. Fire her. Yes. When Lin Menghan came, she was aggressive and determined to win. However, when she left, her face was covered in dirt and she was extremely embarrassed. When she walked out of the Jiang family's gate, she even tripped over the high threshold and fell on the ground like a dead dog. Her knees were bruised. However, the few male police officers who had doted on her did not help her up. They did not even look at her. They hated her to the core. She was a useless teammate. She was a jinx. She had gone to arrest a National Hero Medal recipient without an arrest warrant. Everyone would be punished. Mr. Jiang, the dark flower bounty on the dark web has been cancelled. At least for a short period of time, the Jiang family is safe. Xu Wei said with a smile after they had walked away. Jiang Tian nodded slightly. He was not surprised by this. This time many assassins and mercenaries had died an unnatural death. 2 of the 7 leaders of the Big Circle had died. Moreover, Jiang Tian had found out that the Big Circle's backer was the Big Circle. The Big Circle would not be able to retaliate in a short period of time. Mr. Jiang, many departments have expressed their dissatisfaction with your brazen actions. However, Elder Chow insisted that your actions were justified and legal. Elder Chow had put in a lot of effort. Xu Wei said meaningfully. I understand. Thank Elder Chow for me. Jiang Tian said calmly. At his level, he was worthy of the country's support. He had the right to talk to Elder Chow. The Southeast Asian masters occupied the northern foot of Mount Everest and Jinling was in chaos. Yi Zhantian did not intervene in the 2 critical moments. It was Jiang Tian who came from behind and turned the tide. Without Jiang Tian, the military and Hua Xia's martial arts community would have been humiliated. This showed how important Jiang Tian was. Chapter 293. When Xu Wei was about to leave, Jiang Tian suddenly asked, "Can you all contact the Circle?" Of course. The Great Circle is the #1 Chinese organization in the world. We have to control, use and pacify them. We have already established a channel to communicate with them, Xu Wei said. If it's convenient, please tell 6th Master Fan of the Great Circle that Lin Zhenyu and I were forced to fight because he wanted to touch my beloved disciple. If he stops now, I won't do anything to him. Otherwise, I will annihilate his entire family. Jiang Tian said calmly. Xu Wei was slightly taken aback. She nodded and said, "Okay, don't worry, Mr. Jiang. I will find a way to pass the message." After Xu Wei and the others left, Qing'er came out of the study and sat down with Jiang Tian. She smiled and said, "Hubby, are we really going to let the Great Circle go? The Jiang family is not safe before the dragon subduing formation is completed. It's not a good time to show hostility and attract their attention." Jiang Tian chuckled as a sharp murderous intent flashed across his eyes. He said, "Hee hee, but to cut the weeds one must remove the roots. How can I let go of such a big circle? I just don't have the time to deal with them now. Once the dragon subduing formation is completed, I will go to their door and kill them all." Late at night, Jiang Tian was playing with his flying sword. Qing'er held Jiang Tian's hand and leaned against Jiang Tian's side. There was a hint of shyness between her brows. At this time she had just taken a shower, and the water vapor made her pretty little face look even more translucent and delicate. The night wind was biting cold outside and yellow leaves were falling. However, the room was as warm as spring. She wore silk pajamas, revealing her fair arms and legs. Her body exuded a faint fragrance that refreshed one's heart and refreshed one's mind. Jiang Tian knew that this was not the smell of perfume or cosmetics. This was the true fragrance of her body, the true immortal qi. It couldn't be helped. The immortal body was just that domineering. Her skin was like ice and her bones were like jade. She bit her lower lip and smiled. "Mom and Dad are urging us to have a baby again. They even suspect that there is something wrong with our bodies. I won't take the blame for this." Jiang Tian put away the little black flying sword and looked at Qing'er in surprise. What are you laughing about? Why are you pretending to be confused? We have been together for more than a year, and you haven't even touched me." Qing'er was so embarrassed that she almost died. Her beautiful face was flushed red as if she had applied rouge. "Is this bastard a block of wood?" Block? Jiang Tian suddenly understood. In fact, the relationship between the 2 of them had become more and more sincere. Later on, Jiang Tian's "when I become famous throughout the world, I will want you" had already become a meaningless vow. To Qing'e, even if Jiang Tian was a demon or a beggar, she would never leave him and follow him for the rest of her life. The reason why Jiang Tian didn't want Qing'e was mainly because if she kept her virginity, it would be more beneficial for her immortal body to awaken. The probability and degree of awakening would be greatly increased. And after Qing'e consumed the princess flower and awakened her immortal body, dark organizations from all over the world came one after another. After that, the two of them traveled from Linzhou to Jinling, slaughtering their way through. After a bloodbath in Jinling, Jiang Tian was busy recuperating and refining weapons, so much so that he didn't even touch Qing'e's finger. Haha, then let's go make a baby. Jiang Tian was overjoyed and laughed. Qing'e's immortal body awakened, and she stepped on the road of cultivation. Jiang Tian's heart fell to the ground and he was in a good mood. He picked her up and threw her on the rose-colored bed. Why did you have to open your eyes when we kissed? Jiang Tian was given a fright by her round eyes. Don't look at me like that, okay? It's scary. I want to engrave your appearance in my heart. When I meet you again in my next life, I want to be your wife again. Qing'e's slender hands caressed Jiang Tian's face, and her eyes were slightly red as she spoke emotionally. Qing'e. Jiang Tian's heart was filled with tenderness. After 10,000 years of suffering and waiting, after living two lives, he was finally able to embrace Qing'e in his arms again. Only then did Qing'e truly belong to him. When that wonderful moment arrived, Qing'e's entire body stiffened, and her brows furrowed slightly. There was a hint of pain in her eyes, but she suddenly couldn't help but bite Jiang Tian's arm. Then a teardrop flowed down from the corner of her eye. Outside the window, withered leaves drifted silently. Inside the room, the lights were bright and beautiful and the entire room was filled with spring. On this tranquil night, Jiang Tian finally turned the girl that he had missed for 10,000 years into a complete woman. Qing'e's tenderness made Jiang Tian unable to suppress the impulse in his heart. Her single-mindedness, her gentleness were enough to set off monstrous waves in Jiang Tian's heart, which was as still as a rock and as still as water, and make him go crazy. After that night, Qing'e and Jiang Tian's relationship deepened. It was as sweet as honey, full of tenderness and sweetness. Jiang Tian meditated and cultivated with Qing'e every day. Sometimes he would go to the Fersky laboratory to give pointers, and sometimes he would accompany Qing'e on sightseeing tours. He was very comfortable. Moreover, the Lingnan spellcasters had also collected a lot of spell formation materials from Southeast Asia. The materials for the spell formation were continuously transported over, and gradually the super spell formation was beginning to take shape. However, Jiang Tian also reminded them not to expose their relationship, in case the Chinese of Singapore attacked them. Right now they were in the enemy's base camp. Soon it was the end of the year. The temperature was dropping and winter was approaching. I heard from enlightened Master Hongye and Su Wenjie that the magical weapon auction of Singapore's spellcasters is about to begin. Looks like I'll have to make a trip to Singapore this time. After discussing with Qing'e, Jiang Tian prepared for the trip to Singapore. Unexpectedly, before they could leave, Jiang Tian received a piece of unexpected news. Qing'e, who had grown up with him in the Xianxia County Hall, had returned. Qing'e hasn't been back for a few years. Jiang Tian, I know you're rich, but this meal has to be on me. On the phone, Xianxia said seriously and enthusiastically invited Jiang Tian and his wife to join him. Fine. I'll let you show off. Jiang Tian did not force him and happily agreed. In the evening, Xianxia drove a brand new Maserati sports car to pick up Jiang Tian and his wife. Jiang Tian was surprised. Wow, you've changed your gun for a cannon. You're rich now? Didn't young Master Yu Qiang tell you? I've taken over Emperor International under Cannon Fist Master Lei Ming. I only spent 50 to 60 million. Xianxia said embarrassedly. Oh, I see. Jiang Tian nodded, but his brows were slightly furrowed. In his previous life, although Xianxia wasn't very rich, he still lived a peaceful life without worrying about food or clothing. In this life he was closer to him. He did not know if it was a blessing or a curse for him. Seeing Jiang Tian's frown, Tan Guangxu quickly said, Jiang Tian, don't worry. Xianxia didn't do those dirty things. Those businesses have all stopped. Now he only has a few traditional Chinese massage therapists. They're all good women. Xianxia, sorry for the expense. Nice to meet you, Dong Su. Qing'e also came out and greeted politely. Bang. Zhen Shuai's hand trembled and the car keys fell to the ground. His saliva instantly flowed out and his eyes were wide open. Qing'er began to receive Yu Lu's favor, and her temperament had also undergone some changes. She was pure and untainted with a bit of gentleness. She could be described as charming and feminine. Any man who saw her would be moved. Zhen Shuai, what are you looking at? She's our sister-in-law. Tan Guangshu gave him a slap. Nothing. I just felt that our sister-in-law had changed a lot. I couldn't recognize her. Zhen Shuai gulped. His voice was so loud that even he was shocked. He quickly got into the car and led the way. I haven't seen Qingyi for many years. I wonder how Qingyi has changed. Jiang Tian's eyes were filled with anticipation and excitement. Strictly speaking, Qingyi wasn't considered a disciple of a big family. He was just an outsider living with his mother in the county. Furthermore, he was 2 years older than Jiang Tian and the rest. In the beginning, Qingyi looked down on Jiang Tian and the other two who did all kinds of evil things. He didn't even greet them when they met. But once, Jiang Tian and the other two went to eat at Qingyi's mother's barbecue shop. When they saw a few tattooed gangsters eating without paying, they immediately rushed up and beat them up. After that, the relationship between the four of them improved and they became close friends. Later, Jiang Tian and the rest found out that Qingyi was very good at fighting. Their actions that day were completely unnecessary. He could beat up 3 to 5 adult men by himself. As a result, Qingyi became the force output of this small gang. Since he was a little older, they called him the boss. Now that he thought about it, there was once when Jiang Tian was blocked by Xiao Miao and a few other thugs in Jinling. It was Qingyi who saved him. In order to save him, Qingyi fought 7 to 8 gangsters alone and was cut several times. It wasn't until after he finished his university in Jinling that Qingyi left the big family and returned to the northeast with his mother. Jiang Tian didn't understand at that time. But now that he thought about it, Qingyi seemed to have the shadow of a martial artist. This time, the location of the gathering was still Emperor International in Bright Moon Town. However, it was different from before. Now it was Zhen Shuai's property. Zhen Shuai also told all the service staff to treat Jiang Tian as if he was there himself. They had to serve him well. Good evening, Mr. Jiang, Mrs. Jiang. Welcome. When Jiang Tian and the rest entered, the store manager, foreman, and a dozen beauties in Cheongsam standing on both sides of the entrance bowed together. They entered one of the best presidential boxes. After drinking tea and chatting for a while, a young man in his early 30s opened the door and walked in. He had thick eyebrows and big eyes. He was tall and burly and looked very powerful. He was wearing an old mountaineering suit and his hiking shoes were badly worn. He carried a backpack and was dressed like a typical backpacker. However, he looked a little tired and travel-worn. Jiang Tian Mingshu Zhen Shuai. I missed you so much. Qingyi hugged everyone enthusiastically. Other people did not notice it, but Jiang Tian noticed that Qingyi was limping when he walked. He scanned with his divine sense and found that his right leg had been amputated and replaced with a prosthesis. Qingyi, what happened to your leg? Jiang Tian's heart tightened. He frowned and asked in a low voice. Chapter 294. Hey, it's nothing. Haven't I always loved playing football? 3 years ago I was playing football with someone and accidentally fractured my leg. That left the root of the illness. Qingyi sat down and forced a smile. It's fine. I can walk and jump. My daily life isn't affected at all. Jiang Tian lowered his head and took a sip of tea. He did not say anything. Qingyi did not tell the truth. There must be something behind it. But since Qingyi did not want to say it, Jiang Tian did not want to force him. He would ask him when the time was right. Qing'er also noticed the abnormality. But since Jiang Tian did not ask, she naturally would not ask either. She obediently poured tea for Jiang Tian and the rest. Is this my sister-in-law? Qingyi held the cup with both hands and thanked her. Jiang Tian nodded his head. How virtuous. Jiang Tian, you're so lucky. Qingyi praised. Qingyi, let me tell you. This place is now mine. Drink to your heart's content tonight. Aren't you the god of wine? I'll definitely take you down today. Zhen Shuai, on the other hand, didn't notice anything. He put on the airs of a big boss and shouted, ordering wine and food. He was awe-inspiring and extremely smug. Zhen Shuai, you're doing pretty well. I heard that there are a few chain stores in Emperor International that are worth hundreds of millions. Qingyi praised. But Jiang Tian noticed that Qing Yi's gaze was calm. He thought that Qing Yi's background was probably not simple. Just what was his background? Jiang Tian, I'm really sorry. I didn't even know that you guys got married in Linzhou City. Here's a red packet for you. Qing Yi immediately took out a stack of money from his wallet and wrapped it in red paper. He handed it to Zhao Xueqing and smiled apologetically. Sister-in-law, you must accept it. It's just a token of my appreciation. Jiang Tian, this. Qing'er hesitated. It's boss's kind intentions. Just accept it. After Jiang Tian nodded, Qing'er accepted the red packet. Tan Guangxu smiled and said, Qing Yi, you are really generous. One red packet is equivalent to half a year of my salary. No, I'm not doing well. Qing Yi smiled. It wasn't modesty but rather bitterness. He laughed heartily and said, but no matter how difficult it is for me, when you get married, each of you will get 10,000 yuan as a wedding gift. Jiang Tian said faintly. At that time, eldest brother's family was in dire straits. They relied on auntie to earn money to support the family. Qing Yi swore at that time that he would become a rich man. He promised that he would give anyone who got married half a kilogram of money as a gift. Jiang Tian looked at him deeply and said, at that time, Boss Qing was really full of heroic spirit. Young and frivolous. Qing Yi smiled bitterly and said, I've calculated that 500 yuan per caddy is about 48,000 yuan. I can't afford it now. Forget it. Even if you give 8 million yuan, it's nothing in front of Jiang Tian. The dishes began to be served. Zhen Shuai opened a 30-year-old bottle of Maotai and poured wine for everyone. He laughed and said, Jiang Tian is amazing now. He's the crown prince of Medicine King Group. Medicine King Group is now worth tens of millions. Zhen Shuai. Tan Guangxu glared at him. Obviously, Qing Yi didn't seem to be doing well. If anyone heard it, they might hurt him. Jiang Tian, congratulations. Qing Yi raised his glass and smiled. I'm afraid that you can be on par with Nye family, Sun family and Qin family. The two clinked their glasses and drank. Jiang Tian found that even at this moment, Qing Yi didn't show the slightest bit of shock. There were only blessings. Bah! Nye family and Sun family are nothing. Zhen Shuai spat and said disdainfully, Nye family, Sun family and Qin family were all destroyed by Jiang Tian. Sun Hao was directly killed by Jiang Tian. This is awesome. His resentment toward Sun Hao hadn't completely dissipated until now. Qing Yi's face changed when he heard that. His hand that was holding the glass trembled slightly and some wine spilled out. He pondered for a moment and said, Jiang Tian, be careful. The power behind these three families is not to be trifled with. What power? Jiang Tian asked with interest. Do you know Japan's Cherry Blossom Society? Qing Yi's face trembled as he said softly. Qing Yi, since you know about the Cherry Blossom Society, who are you? Jiang Tian was very curious, but he shook his head without batting an eyelid. Cherry Blossom Society is too far away. You know Yakuza's Yamaguchi-gumi, right? Qing Yi frowned. Who doesn't know? They've been in movies before. Yamaguchi-gumi Mafia and so on. Zhen Shuai said with a smile. In Japan, Yamaguchi-gumi is ruled by the Cherry Blossom Society. Qing Yi frowned with deep fear. How do you know all this? Jiang Tian asked with interest. I heard it from someone at a barbecue stall. Qing Yi smiled embarrassedly. Ah, Qing Yi, you Northeasterners like to brag. Yamaguchi-gumi is already so powerful. How can there be a Cherry Blossom Society stronger than them? If you're so good at making up stories, why don't you write web novels? It's like there's rice in a vat. Zhen Shuai laughed. Qing Yi smiled awkwardly and said, Jiang Tian, I'll call you later. At this moment Tan Guangxu asked, Qing Yi, you've been away from Jinling for so many years. How have you been? How's your aunt? My mother has passed away. A trace of grief appeared on Qing Yi's face, but it was immediately covered up by a fake smile. He said with a smile, she died of a cerebral infarction. There wasn't much pain and she passed away peacefully. Qing Yi, my condolences. Tan Guangxu said with some regret. Zhen Shuai quickly raised his glass and said, let's drink, let's drink. It's rare for us brothers to get together. Let's not talk about these unhappy things. After everyone drank for a while, Jiang Tian asked, Qing Yi, what about you? What are you doing? My mother left me a sum of money and it's enough for me to eat, drink and play for a while. I've been traveling around and I've been living a carefree life. Qingyi smiled proudly. Jiang Tian didn't want to ask any more questions. It could be said that Qingyi didn't speak a single word of truth aside from the few words about the Cherry Blossom Festival. Soon it was already 10 p.m. at night. Qingyi looked at the time on his phone and smiled. All right, that's all for today. I have to go. What's so funny? One-stop service. You can eat, drink and gamble. There's still 2 more. Zhou Xian said. He was so drunk that his eyes were hazy. Jiang Tian coughed and Zhou Xian was startled. He immediately said, Sister-in-law, I've said too much. There's no gambling or gambling. It's a proper massage. Jiang Tian, you're not allowed to play. Qingyi, you're not allowed to leave. I really have to go. Qingyi insisted. Stay at my place. My presidential suite. Zhou Xian smiled. There's no need. I've booked a presidential suite at Sheraton. I'll look for you guys tomorrow. Qingyi shook hands with everyone and walked out quickly. To Mount Wu. At the entrance of Emperor International, Qingyi refused to be sent off. He stopped a taxi and whispered to the driver. Mount Wu. Jiang Tian raised his eyebrows. Mount Wu was a barren mountain. Didn't he book a hotel? The driver nodded. Qingyi was about to get into the car but Jiang Tian stopped him. He threw 100 yuan to the driver and said, Master, I'm sorry for delaying your business. You can go first. What's wrong? Qingyi looked at Jiang Tian in surprise. Jiang Tian didn't say anything. Instead he dragged him into Emperor International and into an empty private room. Jiang Tian didn't let Qing'er and the rest in. He took out a bottle of red wine from the wine cabinet and poured a glass for Qingyi. He then poured another glass for himself. Then he stared at Qingyi and said coldly, Qingyi, if you treat me as your brother, then tell me how you lost your leg. It's okay. Second brother, you're thinking too much. Qingyi pretended to be relaxed and said, I had a car accident and amputated my leg. I didn't want you guys to feel uncomfortable so I didn't tell you. Jiang Tian downed the wine in his glass in one gulp. Bang. He smashed the floor and said coldly, You really don't treat me as your brother. Good, you're really good. Qingyi opened his mouth to speak. His expression kept changing. Then he slumped on the sofa and grabbed his hair with both hands. He said sadly, Second brother, it's not that I don't want to tell you. I don't want you to worry. I'm also afraid that I'll hurt you. Qingyi, believe me. I can definitely help you. Jiang Tian sat down and poured himself another glass of wine. He drank it in one gulp. Help me. Qingyi drank a mouthful of wine and said with a bitter smile, Jiang Tian, no one in this world can help me. I've already accepted my fate. Your leg was cut off by an expert with a knife. You're actually not traveling. You're running for your life. Jiang Tian said coldly, Moreover, you're running so fast that you don't even dare to stay in a hotel. You can only sleep in the wild, right? Second brother, you've matured. Qingyi smiled and finally told Jiang Tian everything. It turned out that Qingyi really came from a martial arts family in the northeast, just as Jiang Tian had guessed. This family wasn't strong, but they had opened a martial arts school and were also involved in some shipping and foreign trade. The family also had billions of assets. The Qing family had several heirloom gems, which were said to be able to quickly improve a martial artist's cultivation. However, Qingyi's father Qingyi found that it was not the case at all. These stones didn't have any spiritual energy at all. He spent 10 years and didn't find anything unusual about these stones, so he forgot about this matter and lived a peaceful life that stood aloof from worldly affairs. It happened when Qingyi was 10 years old. Suddenly, several experts from the Yamaguchi-gumi broke into the Qing family and wanted to buy them at a high price. Qingyi flatly refused. Although he couldn't see what was so powerful about these so-called gems, they were after all heirlooms. No matter how much the other party offered, Qingyi was unwilling to sell them. The other party didn't agree and immediately attacked. The Yamaguchi-gumi captured several members of the Qing family and threatened Qingyi. Qingyi had no choice but to give a few gems to the other party. However, the experts from the Yamaguchi-gumi didn't seem to know how to use these gems. They thought that the gems given by the Qing family were fake and came to harass them every few days. Qingyi's cultivation was only at the peak of the iron body stage. He couldn't fight the Yamaguchi-gumi at all. He had no choice but to leave the northeast, change his name and hide all over the country. Qing-yi suddenly rented a residence in the Qixia County government's residence to avoid the Yamaguchi-gumi's pursuit. When he graduated from college, Qing-yi suddenly left Jinling and returned to his hometown in the northeast because the Yamaguchi-gumi once again captured the fugitive Qing-yi. After more than 10 years of diligent study and hard training, Qing-yi had already reached the iron body stage. His mother's cultivation had also reached the level of internal strength. He thought he could fight the other party and rescue his father. However, the other party had brought experts from the Sakura Society this time. Qing-yi was no match for them at all. In the wilderness suburbs, his mother was raped and killed, his father was seriously injured, and one of Qing-yi's legs was cut off. Chapter 295. After he and his father escaped again, they completely gave up on the idea of revenge. They could only wander around the country to avoid the Yamaguchi-gumi's pursuit. They didn't even dare to stay in a hotel because the Yamaguchi-gumi's influence was too great. They even had a cooperative relationship with some scum in the Wuxia society who had forgotten their ancestors. They could easily track down his whereabouts. To Jiang Tian, murdering others for their treasures was a very cliché story. It could be said that it was common in the cultivation world. But now, hearing it from his brother, Jiang Tian felt that it was a story filled with pain and despair. Qing-yi was a sturdy man who was 1.8 meters tall. At this moment he was crying like a child. He said in a daze, "Second brother, do you know? When I saw my mother being raped and killed, I really felt that I was a complete trash. I couldn't even protect my own family. I might as well kill myself." My parents stood aloof from worldly affairs. But why? Why was God so cruel and wanted to kill them? My happy and beautiful life was torn to shreds by others. Why is this world so unfair? Qing-yi suddenly roared at the top of his lungs. A gentleman's wealth is his own ruin. Jiang Tian looked at the deranged Qing-yi. A chill emanated from his body, causing the surrounding temperature to drop by a few degrees. "Qing-yi, don't worry. I'll definitely help you. I'll definitely make them pay with their blood." Jiang Tian suddenly said in a low voice. "Pay with their blood?" Qing-yi looked at Jiang Tian in astonishment. Then he bitterly smiled and said, "I thought so too at first. But after a few bloody storms and a few years of hiding from place to place like a rat on the street, I've already understood that there are existences in this world that we can't afford to offend. Although I'm very aggrieved and unwilling, sometimes I can only endure it. Because if I don't endure it, my family will be exterminated and I'll completely disappear from this world." He suddenly looked at Jiang Tian anxiously and said, "Jiang Tian, do you know that the Cherry Blossom Society is behind the Nye family? They have cooperated with the Yamaguchi-gumi. If you destroy the Nye family, the Yamaguchi-gumi will not let you off." Seeing that Jiang Tian didn't change his expression, he suddenly became anxious. He grabbed Jiang Tian's shoulders and said, "Jiang Tian, don't think that you can provoke them just because you're the crown prince of the Medicine King group. You're wrong. In front of a transcendent power like the Cherry Blossom Society, we're just insignificant ants. I suggest that your Jiang family quickly sell off your shares and assets and flee to the United States or abroad. The further you go, the better. Get a few fake identities and live a peaceful life." Jiang Tian said indifferently, "Sakura Society and Yamaguchi-gumi are just a few Japanese. What's there to be afraid of? I can crush them with a wave of my hand." Qing-yi stared at Jiang Tian dumbfoundedly, not knowing what to say. "Boss, you don't believe me? Fine. Let me show you my strength." Before Jiang Tian could finish his words, he waved his fingers and a 3-meter-long chi weapon slashed the marble coffee table into two. Gah! Qing-yi was completely dumbfounded. He looked at Jiang Tian in a daze and said, "Condensing chi into a weapon. You're a transcendent expert. Damn, how did you do it?" He couldn't believe it and thought that he was hallucinating. He grew up with Jiang Tian and knew Jiang Tian too well. Back then, his mother started a company, his father was a small official, and his grandfather was a very good old Chinese medicine doctor. However, it had nothing to do with the martial arts world. They were just an ordinary secular small family. Moreover, Jiang Tian's combat strength had always been terrible. He had been hanging out in internet cafes, bars, and instant noodles with girls since he was young. When he fought back then, it was usually 4 against 1. Zhang Tian was fiercer than anyone else. When it was 4 against 4, he ran faster than anyone else. In fact, Zhang Tian's role was that of a doghead strategist, a big bad guy who was in charge of coming up with evil ideas. However, everything in front of him was very real. The marble coffee table was so smooth that it could be used as a mirror to reflect a person's reflection. It was obvious that Zhang Tian's qi weapon was very sharp. You don't have to worry about that. Do you have confidence in me now? Zhang Tian said with a faint smile. Yes, I do. Qing Yi said excitedly, second brother, thank you. Although Qing Yi didn't know that Zhang Tian was Kong Teichu's real power, his transcendent master cultivation and his identity as the heir of the Medicine King group were enough to make the Yamaguchi-gumi wary. Then let's go find Uncle Qing. Zhang Tian said with a faint smile. Okay. My dad is waiting for us on Mount Wu. I guess he hasn't eaten yet. Qing Yi said hurriedly. Zhang Tian and Qing Yi walked out of the private room and asked Zhen Shuai to prepare some cooked food and 2 bottles of Mao Tai. It was already late at night and most of the guests had left. Zhang Tian left Emperor International. Qing'er drove the car and the 3 of them headed toward Mount Wu. Halfway through the journey, heavy snowflakes began to fall from the sky. A thick layer of snow soon accumulated on the ground. It's snowing. 2009 is almost here. Zhang Tian said lightly as he stretched his hand out of the car window and looked at the gray sky. The car sped all the way until they reached the end of the mountain road. The 3 of them got out of the car and walked into a small cave. Qing Yi was shocked and shouted, Dad, where did you go? I think your dad is hiding. Zhang Tian's divine sense had already detected Qing Yi's father in the forest not far away. He sighed in his heart. Qing Yi was really scared by the Yamaguchi-gumi. Dad, don't be nervous. This is my childhood friend Zhang Tian and his wife Qing'e. Qing Yi shouted. Oh, it's Zhang Tian. Qing Yi jumped in a few leaps and smiled at Zhang Tian. He then glared at Qing Yi without leaving a trace. He probably thought it would be easy to be exposed if he brought too many people up. Dad, you must be hungry. Hurry up and eat something. Qing Yi handed over the cooked food and Mao Tai. Qing Yi sat on the ground holding the cooked beef and wolfing it down. However, he didn't take a sip of the wine. Don't drink in the future. Stay alert and vigilant when you're on the run. Qing Yi glared at his son. Zhang Tian looked at Qing Yi and felt a little sad. When Qing Yi was studying at Jinling University, Qing Yi had visited him several times. Although Qing Yi's family was in ruins at that time, he still had the demeanor of a martial artist. He was in high spirits and talked and laughed freely. But now he was skinny. He was no more than 50 years old. His hair was all white and his back was hunched. The key point was that he was like a frightened rabbit. His eyes were full of vigilance and his spirit was gone. After a few years of being on the run, his life was always in danger. No matter how strong a tiger man was, his mentality would collapse. Dad, Zhang Tian is a martial arts expert with a cultivation level of transcendent stage. With him around, we don't have to be afraid of Yamaguchi-gumi anymore. Qing Yi suddenly said excitedly. What? You told Zhang Tian about our family? Qing Yi had a mouthful of beef in his mouth. He was so shocked that he forgot to swallow it. Yeah, Zhang Tian knows everything, but don't worry. Qing Yi said. Qing Yi swallowed the beef abruptly and choked. He stared and craned his neck. He said angrily, What are you doing? Zhang Tian is just an ordinary person. How can he help us? And I told you not to bring any strangers up. What are you doing? If we're exposed, we're dead meat. He didn't like Zhang Tian at all. Back then, Zhang Tian was just a good-for-nothing who didn't do anything proper. He only knew how to fight and play with women. His son followed him around all day and even delayed his cultivation. If his son didn't know him, he might have mastered his martial arts and become an inner force expert. How could he have one of his legs removed by the other party? Qing Yi said anxiously, Dad, Zhang Tian is really a martial arts grandmaster with a cultivation level of transcendent stage. I saw it with my own eyes. Shut up. Qing Yi shouted angrily and interrupted his son. He then looked at Zhang Tian and smiled. Zhang Tian, you saw it too. We're like stray dogs now. We're penniless. Qing Yi doesn't deserve to be your friend. Hurry up and leave. We won't cause you any trouble. Uncle, please don't say that. It's not troublesome. Qing'er smiled and said, We know what happened. Don't worry. If those Yamaguchi pigs come, my husband won't have to do anything. I can handle them alone. It's not the Yamaguchi pigs, it's the Yamaguchi gumi. Ching-yi was so angry that his nose was crooked. This girl looked so pretty, but it turned out that she was an idiot. You're a delicate girl who doesn't even have the strength to truss a chicken. How can you handle the Yamaguchi gumi powerhouses? Are you kidding me? He gnawed on the stewed bone and glanced at Jiang Tian and his wife with dissatisfaction. He shouted loudly, "It seems that I didn't make myself clear. I'm afraid you'll cause us trouble. Do you think you can show off just because you have some stinky money? Money is useless. If the Yamaguchi gumi comes, won't you drag us down? Hurry up and leave. Don't cause trouble for us." "Dad, how can you say that?" Ching-yi was so angry that tears were about to come out. Ching-yi was unmoved. Ching-yi looked at Jiang Tian and said apologetically, "Jiang Tian, don't take it to heart. My dad is really scared." "It's okay. I can understand." Jiang Tian said faintly, "Ching-yi, how about this? I'll go back first. If anything happens, call me immediately." "Okay." Ching-yi didn't know what to say, so he could only agree for now. "Are you really leaving?" After leaving the cave, Ching'er's heart softened. She said softly, "There were people following us on the way here. I'm afraid they'll be here soon. Uncle Ching may not be very polite, but he's probably really scared. Ching-yi blocked a knife for me when he was young. How can I not care?" Jiang Tian smiled gently and said, "Let's find a place to hide first. I'm afraid the Yamaguchi gumi people will be here soon." The two figures flashed and disappeared into the dense forest. Hiding in a big tree, they could still hear Ching-yi cursing at Ching-yi. "You're a good-for-nothing. Jiang Tian is an idiot. Transcendent Realm Cultivation and Martial Dao Grandmaster? Why doesn't he go to heaven? I saw it with my own eyes. Dad, can you be a little more polite to Jiang Tian? He's my good brother." "Good brother my ass. Scoundrel friends, fair-weather friends, fuck off. Think about it. If you didn't hang out with him every day when you were young and focused on cultivation, would you only have iron body cultivation now? Would you only have one leg left? You're so confusing, you don't understand. It's not Jiang Tian's fault. He didn't delay my cultivation." Flap, flap. Two slaps rang out and the cave quieted down. Chapter 296. It seems that you weren't well liked when you were a kid. Ching'er looked at Jiang Tian teasingly. "It's fine as long as you like me. I'm famous all over the world and all the strong people submit to me. It's not as good as a smile from my beloved wife," Jiang Tian said through his divine sense. "You're so full of yourself." Ching'er rolled her eyes at Jiang Tian, her eyes full of tenderness and sweetness. After a long time, Qing Ming sighed faintly and said, "Go to sleep. We'll leave Jinling at dawn and head south to see if we can sneak into Southeast Asia. We'll be safe once we escape abroad. I'll cover you with a quilt. It's so cold today." Qing Ming whispered something and he yelled again, "Just cover me. I'm not afraid of the cold. I'll cut you if you keep talking like an old woman." They waited for more than an hour. Suddenly, two off-road vehicles with northeast license plates sped over. They didn't turn on the lights and drove over under the white light reflected by the snow. The vehicles stopped and the doors opened and closed silently. 8 short men got out of the vehicles and surrounded a samurai dressed in a kimono and wooden clogs. They quietly approached the cave. The 8 big men were all wearing black suits with straight collars and black trousers. They had fierce eyes and intimidating temperaments. Most of them had knife scars on their faces. At first glance, one could tell that they weren't good people. Kacha, kacha. The sound of bullets being loaded and katanas being unsheathed rang out softly. Under the reflection of the white snow, the cold light flashed. "Qingyi, get up." Suddenly, Qing Ming kicked his son, pulled out a machete and rushed toward the door. "Qing-san, we meet again." The leading samurai had a shoehorn face and a rindan beard. He held the scabbard in his hand and his eyes were extremely cold. "Chiba Jingyi." Qing Ming was shocked when he saw the newcomer. His face turned pale and he subconsciously pulled his son back a step. Chiba Jingyi was a kendo master of Beichen One Blade School and ranked in the top 30 in Japan. Japanese kendo was divided into Grand Master, Master, Sword Master and Swordsman according to their cultivation level. Their strength corresponded to Wuxia's immortal state, transcendent state, internal force and iron body. Qinya Jingyi was a kendo grandmaster of the Beichen One Blade School. He was as powerful as a transcendent state grandmaster and was able to hold his own against Huaxia's Hong Tianzhao and Mo Haoxiong. Masaichi Chiba had two identities. He was the president of the Yamaguchi-gumi Inagawa Kai and a member of the Sakura Kai. The Inagawa Kai, on the other hand, had tens of thousands of desperados under its banner, controlling hundreds of clubs, custom shops, baths and soup houses. Its assets were worth 100 billion yen, which was equivalent to 10 billion Huaxia yuan. He had a high status in Japan and had even been elected as a member of parliament. He was on equal footing with the mayor of Osaka. Qing sang, "Hand over the real gem." Qianyi Jingyi straightened his back and stood there like a javelin, revealing his sharpness as he said with a hideous grin, "Otherwise I can only kill you. All 5 gems have been handed over to you." Qing Ming said angrily, "What else do you want? Do you have to kill us all?" "That is a lie. You cunning Huaxia monkey. You deserve to die." Qianyi Jingyi said angrily. "Dad, don't waste your time talking to them. Kill them and avenge my mother." Qing Yi's eyes were bloodshot as he charged forward. Qianyi Jingyi was the murderer who had raped and murdered his mother. Qing Yi wanted nothing more than to tear him into pieces and grind his bones to dust. "Qing Yi, shut up." Qing Ming bellowed. Tears welled up in his eyes as he begged, "Grandmaster Qianyi, I have given you everything. If you don't believe me, you can search my luggage." He wanted revenge as well, but he knew that he was no match for Qianyi Jingyi. "Humph. Why would you carry such a treasure around with you? What if you hid it somewhere else? You don't want to hand it over? I think you Huaxia people are pigs. You only know how to eat but not learn. I will chop off your son's limbs and turn him into a human stick. He will beg for death." Qianyi Jingyi's eyes were murderous. He slowly pulled out his long saber and slashed at Qing Yi like a waterfall. The slash was like a howling wind with a series of sonic booms. The light from the saber reflected the white snow. It was as if heaven and earth were overshadowed by the cold light. It could be said that the lethality of this slash was absolutely no less than that of a martial arts grandmaster. The Qing father and son could not resist it at all. Run. At the critical moment, Qing Ming flashed out and knocked his son more than 3 meters away. He raised his saber in front of him to block the slash. The sharp saber aura cut the machete in his hand in the blink of an eye and was about to cut his face. In an instant, many images flashed through Qing Ming's mind. His parents' gratified smiles when he stepped onto the iron body, his beloved wife's coquettish and shy smile on their wedding night, his martial brothers congratulating him when his son was born, and he was so happy that he bumped and jumped around like a child. "Son, Dad is going to die here today. You must live well." Qing Ming's heart was filled with sorrow and despair. But at that moment, bang! There was a loud explosion and a white light flashed. The condensed saber aura suddenly collapsed. "What? I can actually block this slash?" Qing Ming took a step back, his face full of disbelief. What kind of hidden weapon is that? So powerful." Qianyi Jingyi, on the other hand, saw that someone had used a hidden weapon to break the saber aura. He quickly glanced around but did not see any hidden weapons. He suddenly realized that it was a snowball. The other party had broken his saber aura with a ball of soft snow. "Who is it? Come out." At that moment, Qianyi Jingyi was so shocked that his heart tightened. He vigilantly glanced around and shouted with full vigilance, "Little Japanese, how dare you make trouble in Jinling? Do you want to die?" A cold and stern voice was heard. Everyone saw 2 figures slowly walking over from the dense forest. "Who are you? Don't meddle in other people's business." Qianyi Jingyi carefully sized up Jiang Tian and was on full alert. He frowned and scolded him. "Oh, my name is Jiang Tian. I'm Qing Yi's classmate. My father is a deputy director and my mother is the chairman of a listed company. Many clubs in Jinling are my subordinates." Jiang Tian said slowly. "Hehe, so you're a rich second-generation heir. Huaxia's rich second-generation heirs are really as stupid as the internet said. You scared me to death." A Yamaguchi-gumi member behind him laughed while holding his stomach. "Idiot." Qing Ming secretly snorted. He thought to himself, "You didn't leave when we asked you to. You're courting death, so don't blame us. With your identity you can show off in the secular world. But that guy is a kendo master and a member of Yamaguchi-gumi. He dares to kill anyone. Since when did he care about a deputy director?" Besides, you're just his son. This is really... Xianxia was also speechless. The young man was calm and bold. He thought that he had a powerful background, but after careful inspection he found that he didn't have the unique aura of a Wuxia martial artist. It turned out that he was a rich second-generation heir from the secular world. Qingming should have blocked his attack just now, not him. Forget it. I'll let you go for your father's sake. Get out of here. Xianxia waved his hand helplessly as if he was driving a fly away. After all, he was the son of an official. Once he was killed, the Wuxia government would pay close attention to it. It would be very disadvantageous for Yamaguchi-gumi's future operations in Wuxia. Let me go. What are you kidding about? Hand over the gemstone or I'll kill you. Zhang Tian said coldly. This time Xianxia was annoyed. He gave him face but he didn't want it. Shoot, kill him. Xianxia gritted his teeth and waved his hand ruthlessly. Several Yamaguchi-gumi members immediately raised their pistols and were about to shoot. But Qing'er wouldn't give them the chance to shoot. Get out of here. Qing'er shouted and raised her right hand. She waved it slowly as if she was swatting a fly. Boom. A tremendous and irresistible force shot out like a rocket, spreading out in all directions. This tremendous force was like an immortal drawing land into a river. Snow, ice, and millstone-sized rocks were all pushed out, flying in all directions. This force forcefully plowed open a large hole about 3 meters wide in the ground, extending for more than 10 meters. In front of this terrifying force that was like a bulldozer, the 8 Yamaguchi-gumi members were directly turned into minced meat. They completely disappeared on the spot, leaving no trace. Even the katanas and pistols in their hands were turned into oddly shaped scrap metal. Qing'er hated it when she attacked Zhang Tian. She didn't hold back at all with this wave of her sleeve. She fully displayed the strength of the immortal body of the stainless phoenix. Not good. The moment Qing'er made her move, Xianxia heart was filled with warning signs. He slashed out 10 times in a row, forming a sword aura seal, wanting to block this terrifying force. Crack. Bang. But the sword aura collapsed like paper and he flew more than 10 meters away like a scarecrow. He staggered and fell to the ground. His kimono was torn into pieces and his clogs were gone. His skin and flesh were lacerated and dripping with blood. There was a dead silence. The father and son of the Qing family were horrified. They looked at Qing'er in disbelief as if they had seen a ghost in broad daylight. It was a mess in front of them. It was as if a bulldozer had pushed through, a heavy artillery bombardment, or a typhoon had passed through. How could such a delicate girl have such terrifying strength with just a wave of her sleeve? Amazing. Madame Zhang's real strength is probably at the peak of the transcendent state. Qingming swallowed a mouthful of saliva with a dull look in his eyes. I don't know. I'm not powerful. My husband taught me. Qing'er blushed and smiled shyly. She seemed a little embarrassed. Mr. Jiang taught you? Then Mr. Jiang. Qingming looked at Zhang Tian in disbelief. He felt that his brain was not enough to process it. Qing'er was so powerful, but her cultivation was taught by Zhang Tian. How powerful was Zhang Tian? He couldn't imagine Zhang Tian's strength at all. Qingyi also opened his mouth wide and couldn't close it for a long time. There was a faint envy in his heart. Qing'er was so powerful and virtuous. Zhang Tian was really lucky. Your Wu Dao grandmasters. Chiba Jingyi looked at Zhang Tian in horror and seemed to understand something. He suddenly exclaimed, Your surname is Jiang? The Medicine King group belongs to your family, right? You're Kong Teichu, the #1 master under the immortal state in Wuxia. You know what's good for you. Zhang Tian didn't deny it. You dare to kill me? I'm the president of the Yamaguchi-gumi Inagawa Kai and a member of the Cherry Blossom Kai. I have tens of thousands of people under my command. Hearing this, Chiba Jingyi felt a chill all over his body and threatened fiercely. He hadn't decided whether to insist on fighting to the death with the Bushido spirit or turn around and run away. How dare you threaten me? You're courting death. Qing'er had already shouted. She raised her hand and flicked her finger, but the finger light missed. Cherry Blossom Kai? So what? We'll kill as many as you come. Chapter 297. How dare you kill me? Chiba Jingyi roared as he lowered his body into a horse stance. His feet sunk 3 inches into the ground and he swung his katana wildly, sending out several sharp blade auras to block the attack. These katana projections seemed to be able to cut through metal, but they were all useless in the face of the immortal body of the immortal Phoenix Maiden. Bam! The katana projections and katana instantly shattered as if they had been hit by a high-speed bullet train. Boom! Chiba Jingyi was struck in the chest by the finger projection, and he spat out a mouthful of blood before falling to the ground like a dead dog. His chest was shattered and his bones were exposed. He had completely lost the ability to fight back. Uncle Qingyi, don't you hate him? Now is the time for revenge. Go. Jiang Tian said calmly. Qingyi picked up a machete and stepped forward. Fuck you, Japanese, didn't you say you were going to turn me into a human stick? Come on. Tizen, I know I was wrong. Spare me just this once. Chiba Jingyi begged pitifully. Fuck, so you Japanese also know how to beg for mercy. Where's the spirit of a samurai? Qingyi roared viciously as he swung his machete. One of Chiba Jingyi's legs was chopped off, and blood gushed out like a fountain amidst a blood-curdling scream. This is retribution for killing my mother. Qingyi's body was covered in blood as he swung his machete again. Boom. Chiba Jingyi's other leg was also chopped off. Don't kill me. Spare me. I'm begging you. He let out a blood-curdling scream as his entire body trembled in pain. However, his arms and hands were still struggling to crawl away, and the blood gushing out of his wounds left streaks of bright red on the snowy ground. Aren't you badass? Aren't your Yamaguchi-gumi mighty? Don't beg for mercy, stand up and fight me. Qingyi's eyes were bloodshot as he chased after Chiba Jingyi and chopped off his right arm. Chiba Jingyi let out a blood-curdling scream as his eyes rolled back and he fainted from the pain. Coward, this won't do. Qingyi stabbed Chinya Jingyi's chest again and again, almost turning him into a pile of minced meat. Then he knelt on the ground and kowtowed towards the northwest. He wailed, Mother, I finally avenged you. Mother of my child, if you know this in the underworld, you can rest in peace. Qingming also knelt on the ground, tears rolling down his cheeks. Whoosh. When the two of them were almost done venting their emotions, Jiang Tian casually shot out a few fireball talismans, burning the corpses into ashes. Uncle Qing, do you dare to stay in a hotel now? Jiang Tian looked at the stunned father and son of the Qing family and asked with a smile. With you here, what are we afraid of? Qingyi stood up and grinned, revealing his white teeth. Qingming asked with a shocked expression, Jiang Tian, he just called you Kong Teichu. Master Kong. Yes, it's me. Jiang Tian smiled faintly. So it's Master Kong. I didn't recognize your face. Please forgive me. Qingming broke out in a cold sweat when he heard that. He became even more respectful and pulled Qingyi to kneel before Jiang Tian. He was just a martial artist with initial success in internal force. Compared to Jiang Tian, who was invincible in Wuxia, he had no power to fight back. Chinya Jingyi was so powerful that he was equivalent to a martial arts grandmaster in Wuxia. He was much stronger than Qingming, but Jiang Tian's wife killed him with a finger. What about Jiang Tian, who taught Zhou Xian his cultivation? Qingming didn't dare to imagine. In particular, he was quite disrespectful to Jiang Tian just now. It was said that a grandmaster couldn't be insulted. If Jiang Tian wanted to make a fuss, he could kill Qingming with a slap. Thinking of this, Qingming was even more frightened. His head was on the ground and he didn't dare to look Jiang Tian in the eye. Hey, Uncle Qing, get up. You're killing me. Jiang Tian quickly pulled the two up and smiled gently. Qingyi and I have known each other since we were children. Qing even blocked a knife for me. In my heart, Qingyi is my brother and you're also my elder. Grandmaster Jiang, how can I do that? Just now I looked down on you and said all kinds of nasty things. Please don't take it to heart. Just treat it as me. I have a foul mouth that ate shit and was farting. Hearing Jiang Tian's words, the father and son of the Qing family were so moved that they almost shed tears. Qingming was even more speechless. Damn sky stone. My luck can't be that good. Jiang Tian smiled and scanned the ground with his divine sense. He was shocked to find 5 crystals. Of the 5 stones, 4 were chalcedony, which could be used to refine some offensive or defensive magic tools. One of them was a sky stone used to refine storage rings in the cultivation world. Moreover, this sky stone was the size of a child's fist. It could be refined into at least 2 storage rings, one for himself and one for Qing'er. It was just right. However, Jiang Tian wasn't the kind of person to take advantage of others. He especially wouldn't take advantage of his friends. He collected all the crystals and said with a smile, "Uncle Qing, which ones are yours? Take them. These 4 are ours, but Master Kong, if you need them for your cultivation, just take them." Qing Ming hurriedly said. Could be said that Jiang Tian had saved their lives and helped them take revenge for the extermination of their family. How could 4 Chalcedony repay Jiang Tian's kindness? "This sky stone isn't yours?" Jiang Tian picked up the sky stone and asked. "No. This little Japanese guy probably snatched it from another family. It might even belong to them." The Qing father and son shook their heads together. "Well, I'll keep this sky stone and help you carve the remaining 4 into magic tools. I'll give them to you tomorrow. Let's go," Jiang Tian said with a smile. Soon, Qing'er drove the car and sent the 2 of them to Emperor International. Jiang Tian left and made an appointment to meet the next day. Qing Ming respectfully escorted Jiang Tian to the parking lot and watched as Jiang Tian and the others drove 100 meters away. Only then did he heave a sigh of relief and say, "Oh my God, we really came close to the gates of hell today." He turned his head and looked at the dazed Qing Yi. He patted him on the shoulder and sighed. "Son, you have to understand that Master Kong is not on the same level as us. Even if our family is at its peak, we're just ants and dust compared to Master Kong." "Is he really that powerful?" Qing Yi asked with a complicated expression. "The number 1 Grandmaster on the divine list in Wuxia and the leader of the Heavenly Alliance. He overpowered many powerhouses in Southeast Asia and forced the powerhouses of the Dark World to retreat to Big Turtle Island. Today, how many people in Wuxia can stand shoulder to shoulder with Master Kong?" Qing Ming was deeply moved and said meaningfully, "When you see Master Kong in the future, you can no longer call him brother. It's already your great fortune and our family's blessing that you got to know him when you were young. In China, who knows how many people want to meet Grandmaster Jiang, but it's difficult." "What's the Heavenly Alliance?" Qing Yi was puzzled. Qing Ming stepped on the snow and pulled his son toward the hotel lobby. He said, "There's a Heavenly Alliance headed by Master Kong. Its members are all Grandmasters, including Hu Qingtian, Wei Feilong, and Zhao Yuankuan." "What about the Yamaguchi-gumi?" Qing Yi was a little worried. "Yamaguchi-gumi is nothing." Qing Ming curled his lips and said disdainfully, "With Master Kang's strength, it's fine if he doesn't touch them. But once he does, he'll beat them to a pulp. If the Yamaguchi-gumi knows that our Qing family is now under Master Kong, they'll be scared to death. Master Kong is now the number 1 on the divine list." At this time, Jiang Tian had returned to his villa and was laughing so hard that his mouth almost reached his ears. "Why are you smiling like a fool?" Qing'er asked curiously. "My dear wife, this is a treasure." Jiang Tian introduced it with a smile. "This stone is so magical." Qing'er couldn't believe it and then said with a smile, "That's great. It'll be very convenient for you to carry a flying sword in the future." Jiang Tian immediately began to refine it with Qing'er. Jiang Tian's demonic flame attack was very powerful, but when it came to refining weapons, it was actually inferior to Qing'er's Li Fire. Li Fire was comparable to the Samadhi True Fire. It was very powerful in terms of killing, refining weapons and refining pills. She had no choice but to pull Qing'er along and have her spit out Li Fire to help. First, she used Li Fire to melt the stone, remove the impurities and further condense it. Then she cooled it under the control of her divine sense to form a ring embryo. Then she engraved various concealment and spatial arrays. When the sky turned white, it finally took shape. "How big is it inside?" Zhao Xueqing asked curiously. Jiang Tian scanned inside with his divine sense and said, "Yours is more than 300 cubic meters. Mine is dozens of cubic meters." "Ah, 300 cubic meters. Isn't that the size of a house?" Qing'er's eyes widened. Jiang Tian nodded. He thought to himself, "This isn't considered big. In the outer space, the storage bags and interspatial rings of some powerful cultivators can even hold a mountain." "No, honey, this is not good," Qing'er said. "Why don't you wear the big one?" Jiang Tian quickly shook his head and said, "Dozens of cubic meters is enough for me. I only need to store elixirs and magic weapons. You can also store some clothes, cosmetics, and so on. Girls have a lot of things. Besides, this style doesn't suit me. I'll laugh to death if I take it out." According to Qing'er's suggestion, Jiang Tian made Qing'er's storage ring into a little white rabbit. Because Qing'er was a rabbit, Jiang Tian would be too sissy to wear such a style. Then I'll see if I can put the white ape-bone zither in it. Qing'er silently chanted an incantation and moved her divine sense. Suddenly, the white ape-bone zither disappeared with a whoosh. Wow, this is fun. This is so fun. Can it transform into a living person? Qing'er laughed. That won't work. The storage space can't store living things. Otherwise their life will be cut off. Jiang Tian laughed. Honey, I'll try putting a Rolls-Royce in it. Qing'er happily ran to the yard to play. Although making the storage ring consumed a lot of true essence and divine sense, and Jiang Tian was a little tired, since he had promised the father and son of the Qing family, Jiang Tian kept his promise. He forced himself to continue carving the jade essence. At noon he finally finished carving. Jiang Tian swallowed an elixir and meditated for a while to recover his true essence and divine sense as much as possible. During dinner, Jiang Tian went to the Emperor Club where the father and son of the Qing family were staying. He planned to give them the 4 jade talisman magical items. These 4 jade talismans had the function of defense, anti-poison, and body protection. They also had a small spirit gathering array. If they wore it daily, it could help them with their cultivation. Chapter 298. The other 2 were thunder talismans that could be used multiple times. At least in Wuxia's current cultivation world, they could be considered top-notch magic tools. Grandmaster Jiang, we will never forget your great kindness. Qingming was so grateful that he shed tears and bowed his head. Magic tools were too precious. It could be said that although the chalcedony was very valuable, it was like trash in their hands. Now, after Master Kang's skillful carving, the chalcedony immediately turned into a priceless magic tool. He really felt that he was too lucky, or rather his son was too lucky to have met a master like Jiang Tian. After helping him up, Jiang Tian finally had time to ask them about their encounter. Qingming recounted his life as a fugitive. When he talked about his anger, he slammed the table and cursed. When he talked about his sadness, he cried. When he talked about the current situation of the Qing family, he sighed. In the end, he looked at Jiang Tian gratefully and choked with sobs. This is great. With Master Kang's help, I'm not afraid of the Yamaguchi-gumi. Our Qing family's lifeline is saved and there's hope of reviving the family. Jiang Tian frowned and asked, Uncle Qing, who exactly is the Li Jinju that you mentioned who helped you out of a sense of justice? Oh, Li Jinju is from the Li family of South Korea's Tanjung branch. Tanjung in South Korea is equivalent to the Laozi of Wuxia and Confucius and Mencius. He's the ancestor of Taoism and Confucianism. Confucianism governs the country and regulates the family, while Taoism strengthens the body through cultivation. The Li family is now very powerful in South Korea. Even the Samsung Li family in South Korea belongs to their branch. Qingming explained, Li Jinju's father once went to Wuxia for an activity and was chased by several Japanese enemies and was seriously injured. I happened to run into him, so I defeated the enemy and saved him. He was very grateful and called me brother. Moreover, we were betrothed before we were born. Li Jinju is now considered Qing Yi's fiancé. At this moment, a trace of shyness appeared on Qing Yi's face as he said, Actually, Li Jinju is gentle, kind, and beautiful. Moreover, she's from a rich and powerful family. Our Qing family has been ruined to such an extent that we really can't afford to associate with her. We've already proposed to annul this marriage and the Li family has also agreed. Well, now she and Qing Yi call each other brother and sister. Qingming added. How beautiful. Jiang Tian asked with a smile. In South Korea there is a goddess festival. It's a traditional festival where they choose the most beautiful girl from all over the country. Li Jinju has been chosen as a goddess for 3 consecutive years ever since she came of age. Qing Yi's face showed a trace of pride. Oh. Jiang Tian nodded. Qing Yi continued, she's really kind to our Qing family. She often sends me money and asks about our well-being. She's especially concerned about us, father and son. Unfortunately, I'm not good enough for them. She often asks about your well-being. Jiang Tian said with a faint smile. Did you notice that every time you told her where you escaped, the Yamaguchi-gumi would follow you? Qing Yi was slightly stunned, then he pretended to be relaxed and smiled. How is that possible? Qingming's eyes darted around. Suddenly he was shocked and said angrily, "That's true. Could it be that this woman doesn't care about us at all, but has been spying on and passing information to the Yamaguchi-gumi? Although the Yamaguchi-gumi is powerful, it's impossible for them to infiltrate the hotel to the point where they immediately know that you're staying," Jiang Tian said lightly. "Moreover, you've been living in the wilderness since then. Other than Li Jinju, no one else knows about it. How could they follow you so quickly? Last night, an hour after you slept, Chiba Jingyi and the rest were already here. This reaction speed TSK. Sensing his father's gaze on him, Ching Yi said dejectedly, "I contacted Li Jinju before I went to bed last night. I told her that we're staying in Mount Wu and told her not to worry. She really did it." Qing Ming slammed the table and shouted angrily. Then he said in confusion, "That's not right. Japan has invaded South Korea many times in history. As the elite organizations of their respective countries, the Tanjung branch and the Sakura Society are mortal enemies. Why would Li Jinju pass information to them? I'm afraid that Li Jinju has already been controlled by them," Jiang Tian said with a faint smile. There were too many ways to turn an enemy into a loyal slave, such as the spiritual steel seal in the cultivation world, or his control of Su Ruoqing's ecstasy. He could even turn the other party into his own clone. Although the cultivators on Earth were not that powerful, there were a few eccentric people who could use secret techniques to control the other party's thoughts and consciousness. "Master Kong, what should we do?" Qing Ming asked. "If we don't get to the bottom of this matter, I'm afraid it'll always be a knot in your hearts. How about this? You arrange a meeting with Li Jinju and tell her that you'll give the chalcedony directly to her. She should show up," Jiang Tian said lightly. The father and son of the Qing family nodded. Qing Yi immediately called Li Jinju and said, "Jinju, I was hunted down by Yamaguchi-gumi again today." "Appa, are you hurt?" Jinju is really worried. Li Jinju spoke Chinese fluently. Her voice was soft and pleasant, full of concern. "I was hurt a little, but I managed to escape." Qing Yi pretended to be very sad and sighed. "Jinju, I'm afraid that I can't protect the gem anymore. I want to give it to you. No matter what, it can't fall into the hands of Yamaguchi-gumi. That's not appropriate. That's your Qing family's heirloom," Li Jinju said hesitantly. "Oh, I want to give it to you. I want to hand it over to you personally. I don't know when they will come again," Qing Yi insisted. "Okay, then I'll fly to Jinling, Wuxia. I'll be able to see you tomorrow. Jinju is really looking forward to it." Li Jinju finally agreed. The next night, the father and son of Qing Yi called Jiang Tian. Li Jinju had arrived in Jinling and wanted to meet with Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian immediately met up with the two of them and rushed to the meeting location. At this time it had been snowing for a day and night. The entire Jinling was covered in snow, and it looked like a world of jade. Li Jinju was very careful. She chose a private clubhouse called Baitsun Korean House. This private clubhouse was located at the edge of the Qinhuai River. It's a high-class clubhouse in Jinling and it's expensive. In Jiang Tian's view, this should be a stronghold of the Li family or Li Jinju. The interior of the clubhouse was built according to South Korea's classical architectural style. Mud, stone, and straw were used to create a natural feeling. White Korean paper was pasted on the windows and red lanterns were hung under the eaves. The interior of the room was paved with solid wood, and there was a heated brick bed. The young women who came and went were all dressed in classic Korean clothing. They were polite and had gentle and shy smiles on their faces, as if they were from the great Chongjin dynasty. When the customers walked in, it felt like they had entered the Silla kingdom of the southern dynasty. Under the guidance of two maids dressed in elegant Korean clothing, Jiang Tian and the Qing family's father and son walked into the clubhouse. As Jiang Tian walked, he sized up the surroundings. Suddenly, his sword-like brows raised and a wisp of ridicule appeared on the corners of his mouth. Even though it was already the coldest day of the year and water droplets would turn into ice, the moment Jiang Tian pushed open the door and entered, he immediately felt warm. They saw a woman wearing a business suit with her back facing Jiang Tian and the others. She was kneeling on a praying mat, using a pair of large scissors to cut the meat and grilling it on the iron plate on the short marble platform. Beside her were a plate of kimchi, a stone pot of rice, and a bottle of Korean-style soju. Although her back was facing the crowd, just by looking at her curvy waist and buttocks, as well as her snow-white tender neck and the snow-white calves under her butt, One could tell that this girl was definitely a first-class beauty. Beside her was an old man in a kimono with a katana placed on his knees. His aura was as deep as the ocean and his eyes were flickering with light. "Papa, you're here." Hearing the sound of the door opening, Li Jinju jumped up happily and hurriedly wiped the grease from the corner of her mouth. She lowered her head and smiled shyly. "I just got off the plane and was too hungry, so I ate a little first. I'm sorry." Her height was 1.7 meters when she was barefoot. Her figure was curvy and exquisite, her facial features were delicate and her skin was fair. Especially when she smiled, revealing 2 deep dimples. She looked indescribably naive and cute. The moment her smile bloomed, it was like 100 flowers blooming, making the whole room bright and beautiful. "It's okay, girl. Just eat if you're hungry. We're old friends, so there's no need to follow the rules." Qing Yi already had a grudge in his heart, so he pulled a long face and didn't speak. Qing Ming, on the other hand, was an experienced man, so he laughed as if nothing had happened. "Everyone, please take a seat. If you haven't eaten yet, let's eat together," Li Jinju quickly said enthusiastically. Her eyes swept over Jiang Tian, but she didn't care too much. She just thought that Jiang Tian was a helper or follower of the Qing family. After Jiang Tian, the father and son of the Qing family took their seats, Li Jinju enthusiastically poured wine and barbecued meat for everyone and chatted with the 3 of them. She looked at them with her beautiful eyes and whispered with a smile. She was as gentle as water and very amiable, which made the atmosphere very good. Finally, she couldn't hold back her temper and asked with a sweet smile, "Uncle Qing, where's the chalcedony? Don't worry and leave it to me. The Li family is protected by Tanjuan's lineage. It will never fall into the hands of the Yamaguchi-gumi." The father and son of the Qing family didn't speak. They just looked at Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian smiled faintly and took out an egg-sized space stone from his storage ring. He smiled and said, "Is this what you want?" The kimono-clad man's eyes suddenly bloomed with sharp cold light. He asked with a ferocious face, "Why do you have the spiritual stone that my junior brother Chiba Jingyi got? And why did you use half of it?" When the samurai said this, the father and son of the Qing family realized that Li Jinju was indeed in cahoots with the Yamaguchi-gumi. The 2 of them couldn't help but be angry. However, they knew that they had to rely on Jiang Tian today, so they could only suppress their anger and watch coldly from the sidelines. "Idiot, this is called the space stone. It can be used to make storage magic treasures." Jiang Tian said lazily, "That's right. I killed that bullshit Chiba Jingyi. I have already used this space stone to make a storage ring. This is all that's left." Jiang Tian flipped his hand, and the small piece of space stone immediately disappeared without a trace. It was stored in his storage ring. At this moment, Chiba Jingyi's sinister eyes suddenly became greedy and scorching. He was so excited that his whole body trembled. "Storage ring, this is a storage ring. I never thought that such a magic treasure existed in this world." Chapter 299. In the cultivation world, almost everyone had one or even a few space-type magical treasures. It was very common. But on Earth, it could be said to be a priceless treasure. It had never appeared in modern times. First of all, Dharma treasures were hard to come by. Second of all, even if you could find the materials, only a handful of people could make it. This kind of Dharma treasure was too coveted. It could be said to be a great cheating device. For example, if an ordinary person met a transcendent grandmaster, the transcendent grandmaster would let his guard down. However, if an ordinary person were to pull out an assault rifle from his storage ring, the transcendent grandmaster would be killed instantly. Chiba Masao was looking for the so-called chalcedony because he wanted to refine this kind of magic treasure. He knew how great the benefits of having such a storage ring were. It could be said that with his great success in kendo, he could almost do whatever he wanted in the world. "Mr. Jiang, give this treasure to Mr. Chiba. Otherwise you will die a horrible death." Seeing Chiba Masao was about to make a move, Li Jinju signaled him to stay put and tried to persuade him with a smile. Chiba Masao suppressed his desire to kill and steal the treasure. His eyes were burning with murderous intent as he glared at Jiang Tian. After all, they were in Wuxia, a busy city with many surveillance cameras. Even if he could escape unscathed after killing Chen Fan, he would still be targeted if he wanted to move about in Wuxia. Is that so? Why can't I see anything special about him? He's just an old man. Zhang Tian took a sip of wine and said lightly. Humph. He is a kendo grandmaster of the Beichen one-blade style, and a phenomenal success-level kendo grandmaster. He can even stop a waterfall with one slash. Is your neck that hard? Aren't you afraid of his chrysanthemum leaf tattoo pill? Li Jinju lifted her chin, revealing her slender neck. She looked at Zhang Tian as if she was looking at an idiot. Is that so? As far as I know, the best swordsman in Japan is called a great teacher. If there are a few great teachers, I might be able to take action. As for this old trash, he's not worth my time at all. Zhang Tian said disdainfully. What a reckless brat. He doesn't know the principle of not showing off his wealth. He stole Qinya Jingyi's treasure and even dared to show it in front of his senior brother. He actually dares to speak such arrogant words. Does he want to die? When Li Jinju heard this, her heart was filled with disdain. Her face suddenly sank, but she immediately smiled sweetly. Her jade-white hands played with the glass of wine as she looked at Zhang Tian with a face full of ridicule and disdain. Indeed, Chiba Masao was much more powerful than Chiba Jingyi. He was a kendo grandmaster, which was equivalent to Wuxia's transcendent state of martial arts. He was a veteran grandmaster and not many people in Wuxia could stop him. What's more, Zhang Tian seemed to be just a second-generation rich kid who couldn't even truss a chicken. Give it to me. Chiba Masao didn't say a word as he reached out his hand and snatched the treasure from Chen Fan. Get out of my face. Zhang Tian pointed a finger at Chiba Masao, and the finger aura missed its target. Suddenly, a powerful surge of chi shot back at Chiba Masao. Boom. Chiba Masao felt as if he had been hit in the chest by a cannonball. He let out a blood-curdling scream as he was sent flying through the air like a rag doll. He crashed through the door and landed on the snowy ground in the yard like a dead dog. Zhang Tian's finger aura didn't slow down at all. It continued to expand like a cannonball. Boom. The floor exploded, forming a large hole more than 10 meters long that extended all the way to the door. All the windows were shattered in an instant. Shreds of paper fluttered in the air and water and wood exploded everywhere. What? He is a martial arts master. Li Jinju's mouth was wide open, her clear and beautiful eyes were filled with astonishment, and her delicate body was trembling slightly. Masao Chiba was one of the top kendo masters in Japan. He was the disciple of Ryujiro Chiba, the kendo grand master. He was the cornerstone of the Beichen one-blade school. There were only a handful of kendo grandmasters in Japan who could defeat him. However, Zhang Tian had easily knocked him away. Zhang Tian took a sip of soju before slamming the cup on the table. He shook his head in disdain. Your South Korea's bamboo charcoal soju isn't tasty enough. It's like diluted ergot. Who dares to behave atrociously in our Yamaguchi-gumi's territory? Bastard! Kill him! In the yard, 5 or 6 Japanese kendo masters dressed as samurai rushed over when they saw Chiba Masao was sent flying. There were also Yamaguchi-gumi members in black shirts and pants. Some of them were holding pistols while others were holding swords. They glared at Zhang Tian and roared with killing intent. Chiba Masao struggled to his feet with the help of a disciple. He shook his head and gripped the hilt of his katana tightly. He glared at Zhang Tian and roared. Hand over your storage ring and jade essence or I will kill you. Haha, you Japanese are really arrogant and don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. Zhang Tian's face darkened as he sneered. Do you think that Wuxia is still in the air of the Republic of China? How dare you come to Wuxia to kill me and steal my treasures? I think Wuxia has been too friendly to you and spoiled you. He stood there as steady as a boulder and sneered, very good, come and snatch it. Today I will let you all understand what is the true Wuxia martial Dao and what is a true powerhouse. Zhang Tian was born and raised in Jinling. His great-grandfather's generation of more than a dozen people had been killed by the Japanese invaders. He had been influenced since he was young by his grandfather's stories of the Japanese massacres in Jinling and how his ancestors fought against the Japanese and saved the country. It could be said that even after 10,000 years of cultivation he still had a deep-seated hatred for the Japanese. Everyone was responsible for the rise and fall of the country. As a descendant of the Yellow Emperor, how could he sit by and watch the Japanese invaders commit crimes in Wuxia? At that moment he had already unleashed his killing intent. He was going to kill every single Japanese in the clubhouse today. Not a single one of them would be spared. I am very good at robbing. My ancestor was a Japanese military swordsmanship instructor. He burned, killed and looted in Jinling back then. It was so satisfying. Alright, I will show you today. Chiba Masao roared. His eyes flashed as his aura rose. He gripped the hilt of his katana tightly and pulled it out at a seemingly slow speed. The katana's scabbard was mottled with paint and the hilt was black and shiny from the sweat and blood. However, no one in the Japanese kendo community dared to underestimate this katana. This katana was called Kikuin Maru. It was made by the Japanese kendo obata and had a history of over 100 years. The ancestor of the Chiba family had used this katana to conquer Kyushu and killed more than a dozen kendo masters, establishing the Beichen one-blade style. Even the transcendent grandmasters in Wuxia and the Western superpowered users would be terrified when they heard the name of this katana. Puff! A sharp sound came up. Chiba Masao leaped into the air and slashed down with the Kikimar like the Milky Way. Beichen one-blade style, 1,000 piles of snow. With this slash, the saber light stretched out like a raging wind sweeping up 1,000 piles of snow. The white light was more than 5 meters long. The blade aura was extremely dense. If Chiba Masao's slashes were like layers of blade shadows, then Chiba Masao's slashes were like a curtain of blade aura. Not even Hong Tianzhao's raging sea sword art, Tiangang sword array was this powerful. A monstrous murderous aura instantly enveloped a large area, causing the temperature in the Korean house to plummet. Li Jinju felt as if she had fallen into an ice cellar. She felt a strong pressure and her cheeks were about to be cut open by the sharp blade chi. Even breathing became difficult. He is so powerful. He is indeed the grand sensei of Japanese kendo. This 1,000 piles of snow might even be able to split open a huge rock. That arrogant Wuxia kid is dead meat. Many Japanese kendo masters and Yamaguchi-gumi members were shocked. They looked at the attack with admiration and exclaimed in unison. The 1,000 piles of snow blade aura flashed. Boom. After a loud noise, the roof and the wall were split open. Snowflakes fell and the cold wind blew in. Among the flying straw and dust, the sharp blade aura was like a bolt of lightning, slashing toward Jiang Tian with an indomitable aura. Hee, is this the supreme sword Dao of your East Sea? Beichen one-blade style? Trash. Jiang Tian used his divine sense to sense the blade aura. Then a disdainful sneer appeared at the corner of his mouth. Japanese kendo, ninjutsu, and onmyoji all advocated the simultaneous advancement of the mind, chi and body. It was just that they all focused on different things. However, at the end of the day, these Japanese ultimate arts were nothing more than the martial arts and spells that Su Fu Jianjin and the Japanese students who came to China to study during the Tang dynasty. Their aura is not called true chi but chakra, which translates to energy. In Jiang Tian's eyes, the sword chi chakra he had unleashed was even weaker than the sword chi of the Chinese martial arts, and it couldn't be compared to the true essence of the cultivators. When the blade aura was about to land on his chest, Jiang Tian suddenly flicked his fingers as if he was playing a pipa. Dozens of white wind blades swept out. The wind blades were connected head to tail and were more than 10 meters long. They tumbled and rolled like angry dragons in the sky, easily shattering the 1,000 piles snow blade aura. Then the wind blades danced in the air and rushed toward Chiba Masao as if they were sentient. Oh no! At this moment Chiba Masao was alarmed. He didn't expect Jiang Tian to be so powerful. Moreover, he couldn't even tell if it was a spell or a martial art. There were so many wind blades that they could break his 1,000 piles of snow and they seemed to be alive. 1,000 piles of snow. Broken sound waterfall. Whirlpool wheel. Ripple blade. Facing the wind blade dragon, Chiba Masao's face became more serious than ever before. Just like when he was practicing his swordsmanship under the waterfall in the past, he lowered his waist and sat in a horse stance. His legs were like iron pincers as he roared at the top of his lungs and slashed out 4 times in a row with his most powerful saber strikes. It was no exaggeration to say that he was confident that he could even split an armored vehicle in half with every slash of his blade. Chapter 300. Clang. Crack. The wind blade dragon collided with the 4 sharp blade auras. The sound was like a bomb explosion or a few speeding cars crashing together. It was ear-piercing, shocking, and complicated. Countless incomparably sharp streams of air shot out in all directions like a heavenly maiden scattering flowers. The East Asian people who were cheering for Masao Chiba were instantly in trouble. The air currents pierced through their chests and chopped off their limbs. It was like being shot by a machine gun. A few of them died. Those who were still alive fell to the ground and screamed. Wuxia's martial artists are so powerful? Who are you? Chiba Masao was like a bloody gourd. He was covered in blood and slowly fell to the ground. His eyes were full of unwillingness. Let me tell you, my other name is Kong Teichu. Jiang Tian took a sip of wine with an extremely calm expression. It was as if killing a grandmaster swordsman whose name shook Japan was as simple as casually swatting an ant. Jiang Kong Teichu. So I died in your hands. I'm convinced. A look of shock suddenly appeared on Chiba Masao's face. His entire body convulsed violently. His head tilted to one side and he died. Qingyi, kill those people in the courtyard. You can leave first. Jiang Tian said calmly. As long as they could figure out Li Jinju's true identity and cut off her connection with the Sakura Society and Yamaguchi Gumi, the Qing father and son would be safe. Yes, Master Kong. Qingyi suppressed the shock in his heart and stood up, killing the Japanese in the courtyard one by one. Master Kong, this old man's family business is ruined. There's no place for me in the world. Can I be your disciple? Qingyi said respectfully with his fists clasped. All right, contact Yi Ziwei. You and your father will be responsible for guarding my Fersky laboratory. From now on, you're members of the Heaven Alliance. Jiang Tian gladly agreed. The dragon subduing formation had yet to be completed. Although the enemy's invasion this time didn't cause any substantial damage, it was still dangerous. On the other hand, the father and son of the Qing family were experts of the northeastern kicking fist. One of them was an internal force expert while the other was an iron body expert. Although they weren't the best, they were more than capable of guarding the Fersky laboratory and fending off some assassins. Heavenly Alliance. Are we qualified to join the Heavenly Alliance? When Qing Ming heard this, he was so happy that he almost jumped up. He was so excited that his whole body trembled. That was the Heavenly Alliance. It was said that only transcendent grandmasters could join it. Even martial arts giants like Hu Qingtian and Wei Feilong were members. And now he was able to fight side by side with them. After the father and son of the Qing family left, Jiang Tian leisurely looked at the trembling Li Jinju and said indifferently, Li Jinju, you repaid kindness with enmity to the Qing family's father and son. You deserve to die. Master Kong, please spare my life. When Li Jinju heard this, her delicate body trembled violently. Her eyes were full of fear. She prostrated herself on the ground and kowtowed. Master Kong, as long as you don't kill me, I'm willing to follow Master Kong for the rest of my life. I'll be loyal and will never betray you. I don't want to frame the Qing family, but I don't know why I can't control myself at all. Well, that's why I didn't kill you. Jiang Tian smiled faintly. Suddenly, he opened his 5 fingers and grabbed at Li Jinju's body. Come out. Squeak. With an extremely sharp scream, a black shadow suddenly appeared on Li Jinju's face. The shadow seemed to have a face with a green face and fangs. It had a single eye and long hair. It opened its bloody mouth and roared desperately. It was almost incomparably ferocious. It struggled desperately as if it was unwilling to leave Li Jinju's body. Humph, you're just a ghost general. Do you think you can escape from me? Jiang Tian sneered and activated the chaos creation formula. Boom. With a sound, the ghost general was dragged out by Jiang Tian and smashed to the ground like a dead dog. As if it had sensed Jiang Tian's power, the ghost general turned back to its original form and ran away. You still want to run away? Do you think you can run away? Jiang Tian opened his mouth and sucked in abruptly. Let go of me. The ghost general struggled in vain for a while before it collapsed into a cloud of black mist. Jiang Tian used the chaos creation formula and sucked it into his mouth like a whale swallowing a cow. What is this? Why is it in my body? Li Jinju was dumbfounded and her face turned pale. However, at the same time she suddenly felt very relaxed and comfortable. The previous feeling of weakness and dizziness disappeared. Her body was warm and her mind was much clearer in an instant. Whoosh! Jiang Tian waved his hand and a wind blade shot out. Li Jinju's little suit skirt, snow-white shirt and hollowed-out underwear were torn apart and fell to the ground. At this moment, the This beautiful woman only had 2 pairs of black stockings left. Her full breasts, flat stomach, slender waist, perfectly round thighs and snow-white skin were all exposed to the slightly cold air. What? Is he going to take me? This is too impatient. For a moment, Li Jinju's mind was in a mess. She didn't even think about whether she should pretend to be reserved. However, the next moment she was horrified. She saw strange green lines all over her body, forming the terrifying image of a one-eyed giant ghost. What is this? I've never had a Tao. Li Jinju was about to faint. It's just a small spell for the ghost general to possess the body. Jiang Tian took off his windbreaker and casually threw it to Li Jinju. He lightly said, "This ghost general has not reached the level of a ghost king. It has not cultivated a free body, so it can't casually possess a body. He could only choose a virgin profound Yin body and use chicken blood and cinnabar to draw runes on her body as a medium to take over her body and hide when she was unprepared. These runes usually don't appear, but when the ghost general is caught, the ghost chi will rush out. Some of the ghost chi will remain on the surface of the body and reveal itself." Li Jinju quickly wrapped the windbreaker around her snow-white body. Hearing this, her heart was even more frightened. Jiang Tian slowly said, "But you don't have to worry. When the ghost general's body is killed, the ghost chi will dissipate. These runes will also disappear in a moment." It's really gone. Sure enough, after a moment the green lines on her arm disappeared. She turned around and lifted her clothes to take a look. There was not a single trace left on her body. In fact, Li Jinju was also confused by Jiang Tian's words. But she knew that Jiang Tian had saved her, so she quickly knelt on the ground again and said, "Master Kong, thank you for helping me get rid of the ghost general. In the future you will be my supreme master and I will serve you faithfully." Li Jinju was the only legal successor of Tan Jun's family in South Korea. She had a powerful background, but at this moment she was as respectful as a servant. "Well, you are a smart person and your nature's not bad," Jiang Tian said indifferently. "That ghost general has attached itself to your body and controlled your mind. You are like its agent and you have to listen to its orders. Of course, it will also give you some simple supernatural powers. But the disadvantages of being possessed by an evil being outweigh the advantages. If you were not a virgin with the mysterious Yin body, your blood and chi would have declined and your yang chi would have sunk. In the end, your internal organs would rot and you would die. Even with your current physique, I'm afraid you won't live to 30 years old." The more Li Jinju listened, the more afraid she became. Suddenly she felt a chill in her heart. She knelt on the ground again and kowtowed, "Mr. Jiang, please save our Tan Jun's family. If Master Kong can defeat the Cherry Blossom Association, our Tan Jun's family will worship Master Kong." For many years the Cherry Blossom Association and Tan Jun's family had been fighting fiercely. In the end, the Cherry Blossom Association won. 10 years ago, Tan Jun had lost many experts and suffered a crushing defeat. However, the Cherry Blossom Association did not pursue the victory and eliminate Tan Jun's family and the Li family. Instead, they shook hands and made peace with the Li family. They even offered to help the Tan Jun's family and the Li family defeat their opponents and expand their territory and influence. But after Tan Jun's Li family agreed to submit, the Cherry Blossom Association sent a Grand Onmyoji to hold a ceremony in the Li family's ancestral hall. It was during that ceremony that the Tan Jun's Li family members drew runes on their bodies and held a sacrificial ceremony. Now Li Jinju recalled that among the many sacrificial statues, one was exactly the same as the ghost general Jiang Tian had just killed. After that, the Li family members seemed to have lost their souls. They were loyal to the Cherry Blossom Association like marionettes. Now it seemed that the upper echelon of the Li family, including her grandfather and father, were also under the control of these ghosts. After understanding all this, the Cherry Blossom Association seemed like a demon to her. They were terrifying and powerful and she was no match for them. And Jiang Tian was the #1 martial arts grandmaster on the divine roll in Wuxia, a terrifying existence who was ranked 3rd on the Imperial Slayer's roll. Even Apollo, one of the 12 sovereigns, was no match for him. How could she cling to such a thick thigh? "I don't have time right now. After the Spring Festival, I'll go with you to South Korea and help you eliminate the Cherry Blossom Association," Jiang Tian said coldly. "Master Kong, our Tan Jun's Li family really can't wait. Li Jinju pleaded with tears on her face. Li Jinju, what does the Li family's survival have to do with me? Jiang Tian smiled coldly. I'm already being very generous by being willing to help. What right do you have to ask me to do it as soon as possible? Yes, Master Kong. Li Jinju was startled and quickly knelt on the ground. Now that Jiang Taichu's reputation had soared, and the title of the #1 guru in Wuxia was known all over the world, he was like a god and his words were law. How could she dare to disobey him? How could she dare to guess Jiang Tian's thoughts? I have gathered almost all the materials needed for the dragon taming formation. Next, I need the materials to reconstruct my body. After returning to the mansion, Jiang Tian pulled Qing'er aside and said earnestly, this time, I might have to travel all over Southeast Asia to eliminate Wang Chongyan and the Singapore Chinese Society. I'll leave Jinlin City to you. This was also the reason why Jiang Tian did not plan to go to South Korea to eliminate the Cherry Blossom Association. He needed to reconstruct his body and strengthen himself. He also needed to construct the dragon taming formation to protect his backyard. He had no idea how powerful the Cherry Blossom Association was, and he was not 100% confident. It was already the end of the year, and the Singapore International Calligraphy Conference and the Dharma Artifact Auction would be held soon. He had to go there to see if he could find the materials needed to reconstruct his body. Besides, Jiang Tian had killed many of the elites of the Singapore Chinese Society at the peak of Mount Everest. Both sides had a blood feud and the conflict between them was irreconcilable. Jiang Tian's principle was to eliminate the root of the problem. As the saying went, the best defense was offense. He should strike when the enemy was weak. He should take the initiative to destroy the Singapore Chinese Society and kill Wang Chongyan before the other party recovered. Chapter 301. Don't worry, honey. I'll take care of everything here in Jinling. Nothing will go wrong. Qing'er smiled warmly. Her eyes were filled with determination. In the past it was Jiang Tian who had been protecting her. Now that her divine body had awakened, she could finally protect the Jiang family. Okay, then I'll leave tomorrow. Jiang Tian took out the iron shuttle from his storage ring and handed it to Qing'er. This can also be used as a flying Dharma artifact. It has refined your divine sense. If you want to find me, just follow the divine sense imprint on me and find me directly. My physical body can break the sound barrier. With this shuttle, I can fly at a speed of more than 1,000 kilometers per hour. I'll be right next to you in about 3 hours. Zhao Xueqing put the shuttle into her storage ring and smiled. The next day, Jiang Tian declined his family's offer to send him off. He did not bring any attendants. Accompanied by Qing'er, Jiang Tian arrived at the Jinling International Airport. It was only a few days before the Spring Festival. There were many tourists traveling to Southeast Asia. Fortunately, the Jiang family was a VIP customer of Southeast Airlines. Otherwise, it would have been difficult to book a ticket. After entering the VIP lounge, Jiang Tian and Qing'er drank coffee and ate a simple meal. They talked in low voices. It was very peaceful but also very beautiful. Jiang Tian, why are you here? Suddenly, a strange voice rang out. A person in the booth across from them waved at Jiang Tian. Yang Wenlun. Jiang Tian looked up and was a little surprised. He then smiled and nodded. Where are you going? Are you going to Singapore too? He saw a few young men and women in business attire sitting opposite him. The person in the lead was Jiang Tian's university classmate, Yang Wenlun. However, Jiang Tian was in the same year as him, but they were not in the same major. It was more appropriate to call him an alumnus. He remembered that Yang Wenlun's hometown was in Zhonghai. His family owned a ship parts factory and had tens of millions of assets. He was also a famous figure in the Rinda College of Jinling Pharmaceutical University. Rinda College was a second-class college, and its students were all the children of the rich and the officials. Most of them were proud and arrogant. Jiang Tian and he were both conspicuous playboys, so it was inevitable that there would be conflicts and friction between them. However, compared to Jiang Tian at that time, he was far inferior. At that time, the market value of the Medicine King Group was in the billions, while the net worth of the Jiang family was about 1 billion yuan. When Jiang Tian was a teenager, it was also when Zhang Wanqing was working hard to start her own business. She was busy with her career and inevitably neglected to take care of him. Therefore, out of compensation, Zhang Tian had a lot of pocket money in university. Zhang Tian had money and was a local tyrant in Jinling. Therefore, in several confrontations with Zhang Tian, Yang Wenluan was always at a disadvantage. He was beaten by Zhang Tian many times and his face was covered in dirt. In fact, at that time the two of them only had some small grudges. They fought over the basketball court and the girls. However, Zhang Tian's attacks on him were ruthless. The most ruthless one time, Zhang Tian took care of a girl he was pursuing and even sent a video of them in bed. Yang Wenluan was so angry that he wanted to fight Zhang Tian to the death. Zhang Tian felt a little apologetic toward Yang Wenluan. Yeah, I'm going to Singapore to sign a contract. It's a 20 billion yuan ship parts processing contract. Yang Wenluan was dressed like a businessman. He was wearing a snow-white shirt, straight pants and shiny leather shoes. He walked over with a cup of coffee and smiled proudly. He had a deep grudge against Zhang Tian. At that time, Zhang Tian relied on his family's stinky money to flaunt his power and bully men and women. Even he was bullied to the point where he couldn't raise his head. However, it was different now. Their Yang family's shipyard had assets in the billions. How could Zhang Tian compare to him? 20 billion? It's indeed a huge contract. The net profit should be around 1 billion, right? Zhang Tian didn't mind Yang Wenluan's bragging. He chuckled and gestured for Yang Wenluan to sit down. 1 billion? Are you kidding me? This is a heavy industry, a capital-intensive enterprise. Of course, the profit won't be ordinary. At least 3 billion in profit. Yang Wenluan sat down opposite Zhang Tian and smiled faintly. How's your family's pharmacy business? I guess it's a national chain now, right? Pharmacy? Zhang Tian was stunned for a moment before he came to a realization. When Zhang Tian was in university, he often got into trouble. Furthermore, the Jiang family was a listed company, so they had to take into account the negative news that would affect the stock price. Therefore, the Jiang family strictly forbade Zhang Tian and all their descendants from showing off their Jiang family's background. As a result, Zhang Tian couldn't reveal his family's background even though he spent money like water. He only said that his family owned a pharmacy. Therefore, even though the Jiang family created a huge commotion in the capital market some time ago, other than Lu Yiting and a few close university classmates, no one knew that it had anything to do with Zhang Tian. In Yang Wenluan's eyes, Zhang Tian was just a rich second generation with a pharmacy in his family and tens of millions of assets. Oh, my family doesn't own a pharmacy anymore. We're involved in pharmaceutical production. We can't starve to death so we can get by with it. Zhang Tian said faintly. Oh, I see. Yang Wenluan's eyes flashed with a hint of disdain. In his opinion, even after a few years of development, Zhang Tian's family would only have a few hundred million at most. There was no way they could compete with the Yang family of Zhonghai. Therefore, he didn't think much of it and didn't bother to ask further questions. He smiled smugly and continued to show off. And the one who signed the contract with us is the Guo family of Singapore. Guo family? Which Guo family? Is there a descendant called Guo Lily? Zhang Tian asked curiously. Finally, I can see the look of shock on your face. You can't keep up the act anymore, can you? Zhang Tian, you are so ignorant. Yang Wenluan was pleased with himself. He smiled and said, how many other Guo families are there in Southeast Asia? Only this one. The Guo family's assets are at least 100 billion USD and close to 1 trillion Huaxia RMB. They are as rich as a country. Singapore's shipping king, hotel king, real estate king, and many other titles belong to Guo Junfeng alone. He was proud to be able to work with the Guo family. The Guo family was one of the most influential Chinese families in the world. The current head of the Guo family, Guo Junfeng, was ranked in the top 10 of the Forbes list. Compared to the Guo family, the richest family in Jin City, the Nya family was like a country bumpkin. Perhaps only the Bai family, Tai family and Tang family of Lingnan combined could compete with the Guo family. Oh. Zhang Tian nodded. He thought to himself that this robbery would be a fruitful one. You know Guo Lily? At this time, Yang Wenluan suddenly asked in surprise, did you see her in a fashion magazine? Fashion magazine? Is she in the fashion industry? Zhang Tian asked curiously. Country bumpkin. Serves you right for not living well your whole life. You don't even know this. Yang Wenluan secretly ridiculed in his heart. Then he casually grabbed an airport magazine and pointed to a cool and tall lady on the cover, saying, "Isn't there news about her everywhere? Guo Lily, English name is Lillian. She is the daughter of the head of the Guo family, Guo Junfeng. She is the first in line to inherit the family fortune, but she did not inherit the family fortune. Instead, she became an international model and created her own fashion group. She appeared on the cover of Esquire Gentleman 3 times. Even the chief designer of Prada asked her to be his exclusive model. Now, not to mention her family fortune and background, just her fashion group alone is worth more than 1 billion XIN new dollars." Yang Wenluan's tone was filled with admiration and admiration. "Oh, I see," Jiang Tian nodded lightly. "This woman wasn't a brainless idiot after all. Heh. Her reaction is so calm. Her level of acting cool has really improved," Yang Wenluan complained in his mind. Then he said, "This time it's the birthday banquet of the Guo family's old man. He was seriously ill and has recovered. So the Guo family is going to hold a grand ceremony to announce it to the world. I've got the admission ticket. So he has recovered from his illness. You have their admission ticket, it really makes people envious," Jiang Tian said with a light smile. "Damn. Why do I not feel any real envy from you when you say you are envious? Instead you seem to be disdainful. Jiang Tian, since you are not doing well, why don't you work for me? I am now a vice president in my family's company. If you become my assistant, I will give you an annual salary of 1 million. Yang Wenluan handed over a business card and said arrogantly, "Humph, kid, I will let you understand your position now. You are only fit to be my assistant." Now that he was old, he had become a mainstay of society. He could not throw punches at others like he was in university. He could only act cool in a low-key way. If he had just graduated a few years ago when he met Jiang Tian, he might have even beaten him up directly. Do I have a chance to attend this birthday banquet?" Jiang Tian suddenly thought of something and agreed. Wang Chongyan had a noble status and was considered a reclusive expert. He would not show himself easily and would not be easy to find. As for the Guo family, they were members of the Singapore Club and had close ties with Wang Chongyan. Why not go to the Guo family and let them lead the way? It just so happened that Guo Lily still owed him 10 billion for elixir pills. Yang Wenluan suddenly felt a little awkward. Jiang Tian had always been arrogant. He did not expect Jiang Tian to agree. He only wanted to humiliate Jiang Tian. But now, 1 million a year salary seemed a little high. He should have let him be his driver. He humiliated him thoroughly and still did not want to pay him much. I am just kidding. Actually, I have always admired the Guo family. When the time comes, you can bring me to the Guo family and let me take a picture and post it on Weibo to show off. Jiang Tian laughed. That is not a problem. I just want to bring you in to meet Guo Lily. It is not a problem to take a picture with her. Yang Wenluan patted his chest and boasted proudly. She and I are very good friends. Otherwise, how could I have gotten the invitation? As he said that, he suddenly turned around and waved his hand. He said proudly, "Jiang Tian, look. Li Xinyue, do you still remember? The beauty of your college is now my secretary." Chapter 302. Old classmate, we meet again, Li Xinyue said with a forced smile as she leisurely walked over in her high heels, giving off a feeling of boundless charm. She had seen Jiang Tian a long time ago, but she was annoyed. If it wasn't for her boss, she wouldn't have come over to greet him. "Oh, so you're working for Mr. Yang now?" Jiang Tian smiled faintly and looked at Li Xinyue. Li Xinyue was beautifully dressed. She wore a white silk shirt with a bow tie, a short suit, a light gray one-step skirt and black high heels. Her hair was styled into fashionable wavy curls and dyed wine red, making her look exceptionally charming. She was good at singing and dancing, and she was the backbone of the school's arts department when she was in university. Back then, during the freshmen's orientation party, she performed a belly dance called Indian Maiden. She was so beautiful and charming that she stunned everyone present. She immediately became the dream lover of all the boys. At this moment, compared to when she was in university, she was less naive and innocent, but her breasts were more prominent. Her waist was slender and her butt was round. She was more enchanting and charming. At this moment, who knew how many men's eyes were looking at her? "Ah, Jiang Tian, didn't you pursue Li Xinyue back then?" Now that Li Xinyue has just broken up with her boyfriend, you have to seize this opportunity. Yang Wenluan laughed with a sense of superiority. Look, everyone's dream lover back in college has become my secretary. Li Xinyue was generous. She politely reached out her hand to shake Jiang Tian's hand, but she said with a mocking smile, Mr. Yang, you're underestimating young Master Jiang. Young Master Jiang comes from a wealthy family. When will he fall for an ugly duckling like me? Sensing Qing'er's mocking gaze, Jiang Tian turned a blind eye to her palm. Knitting his brows, he coldly said, Stop joking around, I'm already married. He pulled Qing'er's hand and walked towards the boarding gate. He was afraid that Yang Wenluan would say something bad again. He's avoiding me. Li Xinyue didn't feel anything when she saw this scene. She even wanted to laugh. What's so funny about that? A nouveau riche whose family owns a pharmacy, a dandy who doesn't know shit, doesn't even know basic business etiquette. Do you really think I'll throw myself at you? Nowadays there are many rich second-generation officials chasing after me. There are even a few who have assets of over 100 million. How can you compare to him? Jiang Tian, they were just joking. Don't be so nervous. I don't care about your past. At the boarding gate, Qing'er squeezed Jiang Tian's hand and smiled. I swear to the lamp that I didn't even touch her. Jiang Tian said seriously. All right, I believe you. Hurry up and board the plane. Qing'er smiled tenderly as she pushed him towards the boarding gate. He was worried that he would be jealous. Moreover, he was especially nervous. Was this still the same Master Kong who had slaughtered everyone in his way? I'll be back soon. When it was time to board the plane, Jiang Tian hugged Qing'er tightly. He showed his boarding pass and walked into the boarding gate. As for Qing'er, she watched the plane fly into the sky and disappear before she turned and walked towards the exit. On the plane, coincidentally, Jiang Tian and Li Xinyue were sitting next to each other. Li Xinyue smiled and said, Your wife is quite beautiful. No wonder you dote on her so much. Jiang Tian looked straight ahead and nodded. There's no cat that doesn't cheat now. Don't you want to? Li Xinyue lifted a strand of hair that was hanging by the side of her face and tucked it behind her ear. She flirted and moved closer to Jiang Tian's ear. Seeing Jiang Tian's lack of interest, Li Xinyue shrugged. However, this stimulated Li Xinyue's desire to challenge him. Bastard, why are you pretending? Don't you remember how you groveled when you pursued me? There's no man in this world that I can't take down. She was a strong woman in the workplace. She was also good at taking advantage of her gender and was very open-minded. She didn't have a good impression of Jiang Tian. She just treated this as a game. After thinking about it, she took out the hand cream from her bag and carefully applied it on her slender hands. Suddenly she cried out, Oh, I've applied too much. This is Lancome's. I can't waste it. Here, I'll apply some for you. She grabbed Jiang Tian's big hand and wanted to tease Jiang Tian. Don't touch me. Jiang Tian frowned and activated his technique. Suddenly his palms became as hot as charcoal. Ouch. Li Xinyue was scalded and screamed. She retracted her hand. She looked at Jiang Tian in shock and fear and said, Why are your hands so hot? Are you having a high fever? Stop talking. Jiang Tian really wanted to cast a talisman on her and seal her mouth. Then he would close his eyes in disgust and start snoring. Is he asleep? Li Xinyue was frustrated beyond words. She was furious beyond words. Could it be that he has really changed his playboy personality, or does he now prefer simple and elegant girls? Li Xinyue was puzzled. She saw that Zhao Xueqing didn't wear any makeup, but she had a charming and lively aura. Her dressing was very different from her, so this thought came to her mind. No matter what she thought, she eventually calmed down and started flipping through the gossip magazines. The plane flew for 7 to 8 hours and finally landed at Singapore International Airport. Hongye, Su Wenjie and other Lingnan spellmasters were already waiting for Jiang Tian at the airport terminal. As soon as he stepped out of the airport, Jiang Tian felt the prosperity and wealth of Singapore. Although it was only a city with a population of a few million, it was filled with skyscrapers and brightly lit buildings. It was located at the heart of the Straits of Malacca. There was an endless stream of tourists of different skin colors and races. They spoke English, Japanese, Spanish and Malay. Many planes stopped at Singapore to make a transfer. Jiang Tian nodded. No wonder he is one of the 4 little dragons of Asia along with South Korea and Hong Kong. Around 2008, Singapore's per capita GDP had reached 40,000 USD. It was much higher than the other cities in Wuxia such as Yanjin, Zhonghai and Yongqing. Even Hong Kong was no match for it. Singapore's technology, logistics, shipbuilding and electronics industries were all very advanced. It was not until many years later that it was surpassed by the other cities in Wuxia. As soon as Zhang Tian walked out of the airport with Yang Wenluan and Li Xinyue, he was taken aback. He scanned the area with his divine sense and immediately sensed a powerful presence. It was even denser than the Martial Arts Alliance conference. They are not martial artists, they are spell masters. Zhang Tian was shocked. There were at least a dozen spell masters at the Dao reaching level in a small airport, much less in Singapore. According to Elder Tang, spell masters were divided into 4 levels: Sensing, Dao Reaching, Ethereal Enlightenment, and Dao Body. Their power levels corresponded to the Iron Body, Internal Force, Transcendent State, and Immortal State. In other words, these Dao Reaching level spellcasters could easily kill an Internal Force martial arts master. It could be said that since Zhang Tian returned, this was the first time he had encountered so many people, especially so densely packed together. There were at least a dozen of them in a small airport. That was because Dharma cultivation was much more difficult than martial arts. It required both heavenly materials and earthly treasures. Therefore, cultivators of magic arts were even rarer and rarer. For example, Wei Shuofeng had only reached the ethereal enlightenment level, but he was already able to rule over half of Lingnan. There were at least a few dozen martial artists in Wuxia who had reached the transcendent state and were known as grandmasters. There were probably over 100 such martial artists in hiding. There was even a long-term divine role. However, spell masters didn't have such a ranking because there were too few of them. Zhang Tian only knew that there were a few ethereal enlightenment experts in the Maoshan sect and the Dragon Tiger Mountain Celestial Master sect. I have heard that the people of Singapore and even the entire Southeast Asia believe in feng shui, ethereal arts and dark arts. They worship all kinds of grandmasters. Seems that it is true. Singapore is indeed a city of spell masters. Zhang Tian exclaimed in his heart. If that was the case, there must be a lot of Dharma array materials. It should be worth the trip. Zhang Tian, do you want me to drive you there? This is my company's car. It's only a little over $1 million. My company's net worth is in the tens of billions. This car is no longer worthy of my status. At the airport exit, Yang Wenluan pointed at the Lexus that had come to pick him up and smiled proudly. No need. I'll just call a cab. Zhang Tian smiled and said. Zhang Tian, keep in touch. The Guo family's birthday banquet is tomorrow. Come find me at the hotel. Yang Wenluan was very pleased with himself. He looks like you're really bad. You still need to call a cab. He was just showing off. There was no way he would actually drive Zhang Tian there. He shook Zhang Tian's hand and got into the Lexus without looking back. By Zhang Tian. Li Xinyue pursed her lips without leaving a trace. Then she smiled sweetly and followed him in. Seeing that they were far away, the enlightened Master Hongye and Su Wenji's silver Bentley slowly slid over. Master Kong. The two of them got out of the car and bowed respectfully to Zhang Tian before opening the car door for Zhang Tian. Thank you for your hard work. Zhang Tian patted the two of them on the shoulder and got into the car. The moment Zhang Tian retracted his divine sense, everyone felt a chill run down their spines, but they only thought that it was a cool breeze blowing past. Suddenly an old man turned around and looked at Zhang Tian. He frowned and said, "That's strange. Why do I feel like someone is watching me?" The old man was in his 80s. He was wearing a long black robe and a pair of soft cloth shoes. His white beard fluttered in the wind and he looked like an immortal. "Grandpa, you are the most powerful feng shui master in Hong Kong. Who would dare to watch you?" A young girl in an apricot Taoist robe said with a smile. She carried a peachwood sword on her back and had a few talismans on her shoulder. She was only 15 or 16 years old. She looked cute and innocent. Her strange outfit would have looked strange in Wuxia, but in Singapore no one gave her a second glance. That's true. The old man nodded proudly. He was the feng shui master in Hong Kong, Sumajai. His status in Hong Kong was so high that even Superman Lee and the other 3 major families had to rely on him. This time, during the Nanyang Spell Conference, We must show the Nanyang spell world the strength of the Su family of the Talisman sect. The old man smiled proudly. Chapter 303. That's right, Grandpa. Wang Chongyan and Zhou Xian have dominated the Southeast Asian spell world for too long. We must show them the secret arts of Hong Kong. We'll beat them until they're looking for their teeth on the ground. The girl waved her fists majestically. Wang Chongyan has real skills. He was a martial arts grandmaster during the Republic of China. He also integrated Southeast Asian spells into one. He's one of the few people in the world who cultivated both magic and martial arts. Su Maji's face turned serious when he mentioned Wang Chongyan. He then smiled disdainfully. However, as for Zhou Xian, his position as the top master of the Southeast Asian Talisman sect should come to an end. Grandpa, do you mean that other than Wang Chongyan, there are other masters who cultivate both magic and martial arts? The girl in the Daoist robe asked curiously. Of course. Su Maji's tone was deep as he lamented. Wuxia is the true origin of spells. Whether it's the Orthodox Danding sect, Talisman sect, Shenfinger sect, Hulua sect, or the witchcraft, soul hunter, or ghost rearing, all of them used to be very prosperous. However, the destruction of the four olds in history and the catastrophe that followed brought about a devastating blow to spells. A look of reverence appeared on his face. He then said, however, in history, Yi Tianren and a few other martial artists who were half a step away from the immortal state were all geniuses who cultivated both magic and martial arts. Their words were law and they spoke the truth. Wang Chongyan was so powerful back then, but he was defeated by Yi Tianren. Are they still alive? The girl in the Daoist robe asked curiously. They've already hidden from the world. It's hard to say whether they're still alive or not. The old man sighed. Grandpa, you're talking about history. You were talking about the current era. I'm asking about the current era too. The girl in the Daoist robe pouted and said unhappily. All right. Grandpa will tell you. There's still one more person who cultivates both magic and martial arts. A look of affection appeared on Su Maji's face as he patted the girl's head. Then his face became extremely serious. He said slowly, one word at a time. The peerless genius who crushed Wei Shuofeng, the top sorcerer of Wuxia's southern sect, Kong Teichu. A Hilton hotel. The silver-gray extended Bentley drove in. Jiang Tian, accompanied by Daoist Master Hongye and Su Wenjie, stepped into a presidential suite. Master Kong is here. As soon as they saw Jiang Tian enter, all the figures in the southern school's Feng Shui and Xian Shu circles stood up and applauded to welcome him. Their faces were full of joy, as if they were employees welcoming a leader who had come for an inspection. Everyone sit down. Jiang Tian sat down and said with a smile, you've worked hard for the past 2 to 3 months. Jiang Tian was now more and more fond of these warriors and warlocks, and it was more and more convenient for him to use them. Although their cultivations couldn't be compared to his, each and every one of them was loyal and devoted. They had racked their brains and collected all kinds of strange materials for the formation. In particular, Huqing Tian and the other two had also found information about the D-daughter flower. Not at all. With Jiang Tian's approval, everyone was greatly encouraged and their blood was boiling. It could be said that their admiration for Jiang Tian had deepened. During the Battle of Mount Everest, Jiang Tian had suppressed many of Southeast Asia's elites. He had even killed the sky-reaching Master Oyila and Master Green Lotus. How many people in the world could compete with Kong Teichu? To be able to work for Master Kong was a blessing that they had accumulated over several lifetimes. Now, Alpha Primordium's lackey was almost an honorable title. Grandmaster Jiang, tomorrow the Millennium Hotel will be holding an auction for artifacts and materials. This is the list of items to be auctioned. Daoist Master Hongye handed over a beautifully framed list of items and said respectfully. Okay. Jiang Tian flipped through the list lazily. However, he didn't have much hope. Real Dharma artifacts would be treated as family heirlooms by the various factions and elites. They would never be auctioned. This time Jiang Tian came to participate in the auction. More importantly, he wanted to snatch the artifacts from the Chinese Association of Singapore. Since the grudge had already been formed, there would be a battle sooner or later. He might as well strike first to gain the upper hand. If they didn't submit, he would kill them all. If they were loyal, he would spare their lives. As expected, there were only some sandalwood prayer beads, horsetail whisks, jade rui, and relics of eminent monks. They might have some magical power, but they were definitely not top-notch Dharma artifacts. There's a remnant map here? Jiang Tian's heart skipped a beat. This remnant map was exactly the same as the one in the ruins of immortality that he had seen at the old man's place. Some of the jagged edges even matched. Nameless remnant map made of animal skin. Year unknown, author unknown. But there's a slight fluctuation of magical power. Auction price: 3 million XNU dollars. 3 million XNU dollars, according to the exchange rate, was equivalent to 12 million renminbi. For Jiang Tian it was just a drizzle. I'll go with you tomorrow. Jiang Tian smiled faintly and ordered. Master Kong, I have a presumptuous request. Enlightened Master Hong Yi smiled. Go ahead. After we stayed in this hotel we met the Hilton sisters who came to Singapore for business. During this period they were attacked 3 times. The old man helped her to fend them off. However, the old man's magical power was not enough, so they could not find the mastermind behind the scenes. They heard that Master Kang's magical power is powerful, so they wanted to ask Master Kong for help. Enlightened Master Hong Yi cupped his fists and bowed. I don't care about this. Jiang Tian shook his head calmly. This. Enlightened Master Hong Yi was embarrassed. Hong Yi, you don't know how to behave. Jiang Tian sighed and said earnestly, a battle of magical power is dangerous. You don't even know who the mastermind is and you dare to fight with him. Do you have a chance of winning? What if the opponent is Wang Chongyan? Yes. Master Kong is right. Hong Yi hurriedly bowed. Also, I've reminded you to keep a low profile. You came to Singapore to collect magical treasures, not to start a fight. Jiang Tian said, even if you want to start a fight you should be fully prepared. It's fine if you don't make a move, but once you make a move, you should eliminate the source of trouble and leave no one alive. A few days ago I wasn't here yet. If the experts of the Star Continent all attacked together, would you be a match for them? Yes, I understand. Enlightened Master Hong Yi became more and more afraid. His face turned pale and cold sweat poured down his face. Remember, either you kill thousands of miles away and eliminate the source of trouble, or you hide your strength and bide your time and show a friendly face. After saying that, Jiang Tian walked into his room. Everyone else also dispersed. In the wee hours of the morning, Jiang Tian sat cross-legged on his bed, cultivating the primal chaos art. Thud thud thud. There was a knock on the door. Jiang Tian scanned with his divine sense and saw a young girl with blonde hair and blue eyes standing outside the door. I'm afraid it's the legendary Hilton sisters. Jiang Tian smiled bitterly and stepped forward to open the door. Mr. Jiang, nice to meet you. When Jiang Tian opened the door, Paris Hilton, who was wearing a golden evening gown studded with diamonds, was full of joy. She took the initiative to extend her jade-white hand. You're Paris Hilton? Jiang Tian shook her hand lightly and asked while sizing her up. She was tall and slender with a height of 1.75 meters. She was wearing a pair of crystal high heels, which made her look like a high and mighty queen, like a crane in a flock of chickens. Her curvaceous figure was exquisite, and the low-cut evening gown revealed a touch of deep white skin. It was extremely alluring. I didn't expect Master Kong to know my name. I'm really honored. Paris Hilton smiled seductively and said coquettishly. She was extremely beautiful and enchanting. Her beautiful eyes were like blue sapphires, shining brightly. Her face was well-defined and her lips were plump. She was full of exotic beauty. Behind her, her younger sister Jenny Hilton was wearing denim shorts and canvas shoes. She was dressed like a university student, and she was sizing up Jiang Tian with curiosity and fear. Hee, I've heard of you. Jiang Tian chuckled and moved aside to let them in. Paris was the eldest sister. She was known in the international socialite circle for her wealth, luxurious lifestyle and sexy beauty. Other than being the legal heir of the Hilton family, she was also a model, a singer, a movie star and a writer. Her private life was extremely debauched. There was endless gossip about her. Her scandals with male celebrities and tycoons often occupied the headlines of major media outlets. How did you know it was me? After Jiang Tian sat down, he smiled faintly and gestured for the two to sit down. Hee hee, how many people in Wuxia can make Hongye the Venerable personally welcome them? Paris Hilton sat down on the leather sofa opposite of Jiang Tian. Her Mandarin was quite good. In fact, she had mastered 7 to 8 foreign languages. She didn't need a translator for business activities. You want me to do it for you, right? I don't have time. Jiang Tian went straight to the point. In fact, he had heard about the Hilton sisters a long time ago. The Hilton family was a very old family in the United States. It was founded in 1919. In less than 90 years, it expanded from one restaurant to more than 100. It spread across all the major cities in the 5 continents and became one of the largest restaurants in the world. The Hilton family was also one of the top 10 tycoons in the United States. Speaking of which, Jiang Tian had met the Hilton sisters once in his previous life. It was in 2008 when the Hilton Hotel opened its Jinling branch. The Jiang family was also invited to attend. But at that time the 2 girls were like princesses of the royal family. Jiang Tian didn't even have the chance to get close to them. Yes, at that time Jiang Tian was too far away from them. The 2 girls were world-class socialites. A group of Jinling's rich young masters went crazy for them. At that time, not only Jiang Tian looked at them with admiration, but even the so-called young talents like Nie Mingyuan and Xiao Miao were like country bumpkins meeting the city's rich young ladies. However, in this life Jiang Tian had experienced the ups and downs of life. He was already indifferent to these things. What did an international socialite have to do with him? Even if she was a princess of the royal family, what did she have that was worth his time? If Mr. Jiang can help us get rid of this hidden opponent, I can give you 100 million USD. Paris Hilton sat on the sofa like a charming wild cat. She crossed her legs, revealing a section of her snow-white slender legs. The cute little toes in the crystal high heels subconsciously curled up. It was very seductive. No matter how much you pay me, I really don't have time. Jiang Tian shook his head. 100 million USD was equivalent to 700 million Wuxia dollars. But to Jiang Tian it was nothing. Paris Hilton was slightly stunned. Anger appeared on her face. It was the first time she had seen such an arrogant Wuxia. Chapter 304. Before she could decide whether to reprimand Jiang Tian or increase the stakes, her sister Jenny said pitifully, "Master Kong, please help us. 10 days ago hundreds of poisonous snakes suddenly appeared out of nowhere in my room and bit me. And they were all poisonous snakes like the many-banded kite and the cobra. I had to inject a lot of serum to stay alive." She showed the wounds on her wrists and thighs to Jiang Tian as she trembled and said, "It's very strange. And it's very strange. Even though those poisonous snakes were cut by my bodyguards with knives and pistols, they could still magically heal. It's too scary. I can't sleep now. I haven't slept for 3 days straight." "What are you crying for? Useless. The spirit of our Hilton family is never to be afraid. If you cry again in the future, don't come out with me anymore. Trash, go back to the University of Pennsylvania and be a nerd." Paris scolded and glared at her sister. So embarrassing. "But I'm scared." Jenny was already scared. Now that she was scolded by her sister, she couldn't help but feel even more wronged. Her eyes were red and her beautiful eyes were filled with tears. She lowered her head and looked very pitiful and helpless. At this moment, Jiang Tian suddenly remembered Qing'er's helpless crying face when she was bullied. His heart softened. "Don't cry. Here are a few talismans. Take them." Jiang Tian helplessly took out 6 talismans and gave 3 to each of them. "When you sleep, just stick them on your bed and you'll be fine." "Thank you, Master Kong. You're really a good person." Jenny immediately smiled through her tears and thanked him happily. "Mr. Jiang, how much money do you want? Our Hilton family has always been an eye for an eye, and we always repay kindness." Paris took the talismans and looked at them curiously. "No need. Hurry up and leave. I need to rest. I still have things to do tomorrow." Jiang Tian said calmly. "He's so strange. He's not like the other Wuxia people who are humble and love to smile. He's very arrogant, but he doesn't want money." Paris suddenly felt that Jiang Tian was very mysterious, and she was filled with the desire to find out more. However, Jiang Tian had ordered them to leave so they could only get up and leave. When the Hilton sisters reached the door, Jiang Tian, who was already sitting cross-legged on the bed, suddenly asked, "Let me ask you, who do you think is the person behind this?" "Guo Lily from Singapore's Guo family," Paris Hilton said without hesitation. "But whoever benefits from it is the mastermind." Paris Hilton's eyes flashed with wisdom and certainty. She smiled coldly and said, "That's right. Our Hilton Group is bidding for an old-fashioned hotel from the Guo family's Millennium Hotel Group in Nanyang. We want to buy it back, repackage it and relist it on the market. Both parties are competitors." "Oh, the Guo family of Nanyang." Jiang Tian nodded. Other than commercial interests, there were probably other reasons. Guo Lily was also in the fashion industry, so she had a lot of interactions with Paris. This kind of industry liked to have conflicts. The Guo family of Nanyang is not as rich as our Hilton family, but they have many people with strange abilities, just like the superheroes and superpowered people in Marvel Comics. This is not something we or even the FBI can deal with. Paris sighed helplessly. "We plan to withdraw from the Singapore market after this deal. At least our Hilton family will not come to Singapore again. This place is like hell. There are demons everywhere," she muttered angrily and fearfully. Jiang Tian raised his eyebrows and said calmly, "Don't worry, I will help you get rid of the Guo family. In 3 days the Guo family will be completely removed from Singapore." Since he was going to get rid of the Guo family of Nanyang, he might as well do them a favor and let them be grateful. "Master Kong, what did you say?" Paris Hilton was shocked and couldn't believe it. That was the Guo family of Nanyang. Even their father had to be careful and not provoke them. "Get out." Jiang Tian was too lazy to explain. He waved his hand and shooed the two women out. The next day at 8 o'clock, Jiang Tian went to the Millennium Hotel to attend the magical instrument auction accompanied by Hong Yi, Su Wenjie, Tao Fengshe and other southern sect experts. When Jiang Tian entered the auction site, he bumped into Yang Wenluan and Li Xinyue again. "Jiang Tian, why are you here?" Yang Wenluan's face was filled with astonishment. How could Jiang Tian have the qualifications to participate in such a high-level auction? "Oh, I'm here with a few friends in the Feng Shui and Xianxia world. What about you?" Jiang Tian asked with a faint smile. Yang Wenluan looked at the elders behind Jiang Tian and thought to himself, could it be that Jiang Tian is their disciple now that he's learning sorcery? "Isn't it old Master Guo's birthday celebration tonight? I want to buy some magical instruments as a congratulatory gift for old Master Guo," Yang Wenluan said proudly. He looked as if he was saying, "I'm so awesome to be able to attend the birthday celebration. Oh, when the time comes, remember to bring me to see the world." Jiang Tian chuckled. But Yang Wenluan nodded awkwardly. "How can I bring a poor guy like you? Bring you there to make a fool of yourself? I was just joking and you took it seriously. Mr. Yang, why did you provoke him for no reason? Now he's sticking to you like glue. Can't get rid of him?" After Yang Wenluan sat down, Li Xinyue whispered into his ear with a mocking and disdainful smile. "I didn't expect it either." Yang Wenluan was helpless. "I just wanted to show off. I didn't expect him to take advantage of me." While they were talking, the auction had already begun. Under the auctioneer's glib tongue, everyone's emotions were stirred up. They competed with each other and the atmosphere was very lively. The auction seemed to be very high-end. The auctioneer spoke in Malay, but every participant had simultaneous translation equipment in Chinese, English, Japanese, and Korean. It was like an international conference. Jiang Tian was not affected at all. He even wanted to laugh. It could be said that more than 90% of the auction items were just ordinary antiques. However, they were called magical instruments and could be sold for sky-high prices. In the middle of the auction, Yang Wenluan made his move. He spent 1 million XANU dollars and bought a jade thumb ring from the Qing dynasty. "Boss, you're so mighty." Li Xinyue clapped and cheered. "Hee, this is nothing. It's just a small gift. Old Master Guo might not even care about it. If there's something better later, I'll still get it." Yang Wenluan's face was full of pride. He did not forget to show off to Jiang Tian next to him. He was really proud. In the past he was suppressed by Jiang Tian. But now he was the one who spent a lot of money. Jiang Tian, on the other hand, was just a lackey of a few spell masters. From the beginning to the end he did not even raise his paddle. He even pulled Jiang Tian and smiled. "Jiang Tian, why don't you bid? All the items here are authentic. It's a rare opportunity. If there's nothing good, why would I bid? Zhang Tian smiled and said, the jade thumb ring you bought is not a magical instrument. It's just an antique. And the air is not right. It's not from the Qing dynasty but from the Republic of China. If you put it in the antique market, it's only worth 50 to 60,000. What do you know? You're just a country bumpkin. How much money do you have? Have you ever seen magical instruments and antiques? Yang Wenluan was so angry that his nose was crooked. He finally could not pretend anymore and completely shed all pretense. Especially when Zhang Tian said that his antique was fake. He could not take it anymore. This is for old Master Gua. If this gets out, won't I lose face? Ruin my plans? Fine. I don't know anything. Buy whatever you want if you have the money. Zhang Tian smiled faintly and did not bother with him. But Yang Wenluan was not done yet. He said sarcastically, Zhang Tian, let's be frank. In my eyes, you're just a piece of trash. You're ignorant and incompetent. Do you know what a magical instrument is and what an antique is? All the items here have been appraised by a master. If you don't know anything, don't make a fool of yourself. How dare you be disrespectful to Mr. Jiang? Do you want to die? Su Wenjie shouted angrily. I forget it. He's my university classmate. Zhang Tian smiled faintly and stopped the angry crowd. He knew that Yang Wenluan held a grudge against him, and he could understand why Yang Wenluan would suddenly explode. Therefore he did not take Su Wenjie's offense to heart. What do you want? This is the Guo family's hotel and I'm the Guo family's VIP guest. How dare you touch me? Yang Wenluan rolled up his sleeves and put on an appearance as if he was ready to fight. He said arrogantly, come and hit me if you have the guts. I'm afraid I'll be beaten to death by the bodyguards. Throw me out. Hong Yi, Su Wenjie, Tao Fengshi, and the other southern faction sorcery masters were so angry that they almost exploded on the spot. However, they did not dare to do anything without Zhang Tian's permission. Hey, you're scared, aren't you? Zhang Tian, why are you so arrogant? This is not Jin City, this is Singapore and the Guo family is the boss. Zhang Tian, I don't see you as my classmate. Just you wait, after the auction I'll beat you up. Yang Wenluan finally felt good. If the auction was not still going on, he would have beaten up Zhang Tian. The auction went on. Finally, it was time for the incomplete map of the ruins of immortality. After the auctioneer introduced the item, everyone began to raise their paddles. 4 million XNU dollars. A tycoon raised his paddle. 5 million. Zhang Tian directly added 1 million and raised his paddle. Are you kidding me? Can you afford it? At the side, Yang Wenluan looked at Zhang Tian in surprise, not daring to believe it. 5 million XNU dollars was equivalent to 20 million Wuxia dollars. Would the Zhang Tian clan be able to afford it even if they sold everything they had? Sir, can I check your bank card? The auctioneer looked at Zhang Tian in disbelief. After Zhang Tian cultivated the art of chaos, his skin was as fair as jade, and he looked like a young man in his early 20s. 20 million was not a small amount for a young man, even if he was from a wealthy family. Immediately, a staff member came up to Zhang Tian, picked up the wireless POS machine and asked him to enter the password. Zhang Tian took out a bank card. The card was nothing special. It was not a black diamond or gold card, it was just a debit card. However, when Zhang Tian entered the password, the staff member of the auction company was shocked. 10 billion Wuxia dollars. The string of zeros seemed to be endless. It was too shocking. He nodded at the auctioneer in shock. The auctioneer was relieved and continued to bid. Chapter 305. To Zhang Tian's surprise, no one bid against him. After 3 bids, the auctioneer finally dropped the hammer. Sir, this item belongs to you. The auctioneer transferred the funds and presented the incomplete map to Chen Fan. Just like that, the incomplete map of the ruins of immortality fell into Zhang Tian's pocket. Can he really afford it? Where did he come from? Isn't this too much of a tycoon? Li Xinyue couldn't believe it either. She looked at Zhang Tian in a different light. Usually she would grit her teeth when she bought a Louis Vuitton bag for a few tens of thousands of dollars. She was like a general in ancient times who had to fight with his back against the wall. However, Jiang Tian didn't even bat an eyelid when he bought a piece of paper for 20 million Wuxia dollars. Damn, is he that rich? Yang Wenlun was also confused. He couldn't figure out Jiang Tian's background. Xianxia, hurry up and contact your friends in Jinling City. Help me find out what's going on with Jiang Tian. Maybe he's just an agent of those cultivators. Yang Wenlun said anxiously. Before Li Xianxia finished her call, Yang Wenlun was once again shocked by Jiang Tian's rich behavior. Here comes the main event. The last item tonight. On the stage, the auctioneer was a little excited. This is a scented sachet from the Ming dynasty of Wuxia. It has been appraised and is a Dharma artifact. It has the effect of refreshing the mind, calming the mind and prolonging life. The starting price is 10 million XINU dollars. The auction starts now. Jiang Tian didn't pay much attention at first, but suddenly his divine sense sensed an abundant amount of spirit qi. The seed of Winqim grass. Jiang Tian's divine sense penetrated the seed and suddenly exclaimed in his mind. Winqim grass, also known as spirit-devouring grass, had the reputation of plant array in the cultivation world. It could absorb the spirit qi of heaven and earth and grow extremely quickly. It was the most important cultivation resource in the late stage of qi refinement. It could be used to make an excellent essence enhancement pill. After consuming it, one's true origin would automatically grow and circulate, strengthening one's physical body and expanding one's meridians. It could be said that the value of a mature Winqim grass was no less than that of a super formation like the dragon subduing formation. As for the spirit gathering formation in number 1 King's Mansion, it was far inferior. 10 million XNU dollars. Jiang Tian raised his paddle. Even if it was just a seed of Winqim grass, it could be consumed after a year or even a few months. After they bore fruits and seeds, they could be planted everywhere to help him absorb spiritual energy. The shackles of the lack of spiritual energy on Earth would be easily solved, and he would not need to search for formation materials everywhere. Fuck, he raised his paddle again. This time it's 40 million Wuxia yuan. He really doesn't care about money. Yang Wenlun seemed to have been hit by a stick. His eyes were lifeless as he looked at Jiang Tian in a daze. 15 million XNU dollars. However, it was different this time. Immediately after, a young man in luxurious clothes in the front row raised his sign. Young Master Guo is making a move. Guo Changxing. Guo Changxing. That's the descendant of the Guo family, the number 1 Chinese family in Singapore. He's Guo Juanfeng's nephew. Yeah, I heard that he opened the Daoist jewelry company with assets of more than 10 billion XINU dollars. As soon as he raised his paddle, everyone in the room was shocked. They whispered to each other and discussed among themselves. Guo Changxing was in her early 30s. She was dressed fashionably and looked handsome. She was wearing a pair of custom-made leather shoes from a famous Italian designer. They were inlaid with many rhinestones which were extremely gaudy and shiny. She was sitting with her legs crossed. Beside her, a tall and charming female secretary was bidding for her. The Guo family is really something. For a small sachet, they are willing to pay 60 million Wuxia yuan. Many tycoons looked at him with admiration and envy. They were shocked. His sudden increase of 5 million made many competitors hesitate. On the one hand, he was rich. On the other hand, the Guo family was too powerful in Singapore. As the number 1 Chinese family, no one dared to offend them. 15 million XNU dollars going once. 15 million XNU dollars going twice. 15 million XNU dollars going thrice. In the front row, Guo Changxing crossed his legs. He was determined to win. He did not care about the other competitors in the room. The old master's birthday is coming soon. I don't know what kind of luck that little bitch Guo Lily had. She actually found a master from Wuxia and bought some bullshit elixir to save grandpa's life. If I don't take out something good as a birthday gift, I'll really be outbid by that girl. Now that she's in charge of more than 10 hotels in Singapore, this is a very bad sign. Just when the auctioneer on the stage was about to drop the hammer and Guo Changxing thought the dust was about to settle, suddenly a faint voice sounded, 25 million XNU dollars. The entire auction house was completely silent. Who knew how many people were looking at the handsome young man who had raised the auction board in horror? 100 million Wuxia yuan. When did Wuxia have so many rich people? They really don't care about money. Is their family running a money-printing factory? Many tycoons could not believe it. Which family is this young master from? Judging from his accent, he seems to be from Wuxia. He's from the mainland and he dares to compete with young Master Gua? Does he have a death wish? Many people turned to look at Zhang Tian in surprise. Zhang Tian. Yang Wenluan and Li Xinyue were stunned by Zhang Tian's fierce combination of punches. Their eyes were wide open. Yang Wenluan's cooperation with the Guo family in Nanyang had just started, and it had not really been revitalized. His family only had 1 billion in assets. He had just spent a few million to buy a thumb ring and he was actually very distressed. But what about Zhang Tian now? A random perfume sachet had cost his family a year's profit. But in fact for Zhang Tian his price was 200 million Huaxia yuan. For cultivators money was easy to get, but cultivation resources were something that could only be found by chance. Guo also suddenly turned his head and looked deeply at Zhang Tian, but immediately smiled disdainfully and said, 30 million XN new dollars. He was the young master of the Guo family with a reputation. If he was scared by a bumpkin from the mainland, wouldn't he be laughed at? At this time, Zhang Tian no longer raised his card, but the corner of his mouth outlined a mocking smile. The Guo family. Then I won't compete with them. Anyway, I'm going to do it tonight. When the time comes, if I ask him to hand it over, he will obediently hand it over. Seeing Zhang Tian put down his card, Guo Chongqing suddenly smiled coldly and shook his head disdainfully. A bumpkin from the mainland dares to compete with me, he's simply courting death. The auctioneer on the stage called out the price 3 times as usual, and then was about to drop the hammer. Just when Guo Chongqing thought that the perfume sachet would fall into his hands, suddenly a faint voice sounded again, 35 million XN new dollars. Everyone looked back and saw a woman in a black low-cut evening dress with a hot and enchanting figure, like an evil and charming black swan, raising her card. The heiress of the Hilton Foundation, an international socialite, Paris Hilton. Fine, you win. Guo Chongqing scolded resentfully, lit a cigar, bit it in his mouth and took a big puff, then gave up bidding. 35 million going once. 35 million going twice. 35 million going thrice. The auctioneer was so excited that his face turned red. After shouting out the price, he dropped the hammer heavily. Congratulations, Miss Paris Hilton, this perfume sachet belongs to you. When the mallet fell, the audience was in an uproar. The Hilton family was indeed rich. This was equivalent to 150 million Huaxia dollars. But it was just for a perfume sachet. But the shocking thing was still to come. When everyone got up, Paris Hilton walked to Zhang Tian, handed the perfume sachet and smiled sweetly. Mr. Zhang, this small item is for you. What? She spent a lot of money to buy this perfume sachet and she just gave it to someone else? Everyone was stunned and their faces were full of disbelief. He actually knows the socialite Paris. And she even gave him the perfume sachet that she bought with a lot of money. Yang Wenluan was completely dumbfounded and he was completely stunned. That was a world-class socialite, Zhang Tian. How could a playboy like him know her? You're very smart. Zhang Tian took the perfume sachet and left with everyone. Yesterday the Hilton sisters were actually staying in the same hotel as Zhang Tian. In the middle of the night, a large number of poisonous snakes sneaked in, but they were all killed by the protective talismans given by Zhang Tian. Moreover, the snake exorcist in the park hundreds of meters away suffered a backlash from the spell and was bitten to death by the venomous snake he controlled. The next day the related news was about to be released. Actually, when Zhang Tian saw the news, he realized that this snake exorcism sorcerer was actually an old acquaintance. He was Elder Blue of the Five Poison sect, who was also Guo Lily's follower. Back when she went to White Ape Valley, he had accompanied her. The Hilton sisters, who also saw the news, immediately knew that Zhang Tian was an expert who saved their lives. This was also the reason why the sisters returned the favor. Since the other party was returning the favor, Zhang Tian would not say thank you and would only say that she was smart. Paris, who is that Huaxia country bumpkin? You gave it to him? Guo Chongqing shook his head as he walked over and asked with a smile. Oh, he's a magician and his magic tricks are very exciting. Paris looked at him sympathetically before leaving the auction house with her head held high. Your Guo family is in trouble. What magician, do you think I'm stupid? Guo Chongqing spat angrily. Have you found the news? Yang Wenluan saw Li Xinyue's phone fall to the ground and her face become as pale as paper. He couldn't help but light a cigarette and ask curiously, "Do you know about the Medicine King Group?" Li Xinyue said with a dull look. "Who doesn't know?" Yang Wenluan said with deep yearning, "Today Wuxia's #1 pharmaceutical company with a market value of hundreds of billions, and Fersky Laboratory even produced a Nobel Prize winner in medicine. Jinling's Nye family, Sun family, and several large listed companies like Shanghai Real Estate were all defeated by them. Not to mention Yang Wenluan, even his black-bellied father who worked hard in the business world for many years was full of praise for the Medicine King Group. Under the influence of the global financial crisis, the Medicine King Group rose against the trend, like a legend. The Medicine King Group belongs to the Jinling's Jiang family, and Jiang Tian is the eldest son of the Jinling's Jiang family. The chairman of the Medicine King Group, Zhang Wanqing, is Jiang Tian's biological mother." Li Xinyue's voice trembled with mixed feelings. Chapter 306. At this moment she felt a deep sense of regret. When Jiang Tian had pursued her, she had thought that Jiang Tian was just a good-for-nothing rich kid, so she had not taken him seriously. But now, even if Jiang Tian was just a good-for-nothing rich kid with the halo of being the crown prince of the Jiang family, he was definitely someone she could only look up to. He was simply the nation's husband. Gah! What? He's the crown prince of the Jiang family. Yang Wenluan was shocked. His eyes widened, his mouth instantly became round and his cigarette fell to the ground. Yang Wenluan's sense of superiority, which he had just regained, was blown to pieces by this explosive news. He could not even pick them up. His family's assets were only a little more than 1 billion yuan, yet he had flaunted his wealth and ability in front of Jiang Tian. He was probably just a clown in his eyes. What a joke. A sense of shame surged in Yang Wenluan's heart, and his face instantly flushed red. "Yeah, I heard from a friend that the Fersky Laboratory was built by Jiang Tian. He now has a high status in the Medicine King Group and can even directly influence the management's decisions. It's said that the business war against the Nye, Sun and Qin families was planned by Jiang Tian. No wonder some time ago the Jinling Pharmaceutical University asked many students to collect photos of Jiang Tian's life in university. It turns out that they regarded him as a famous alumni and even built a memorial hall for him." Li Xinyue recalled the thrilling financial war that the Medicine King Group had started half a year ago and felt her scalp tingle and her heart tremble. Was this still the good-for-nothing young master who knew nothing but picking up girls and fighting? His progress was too fast. It was like a myth. He's the crown prince of the Medicine King Group, but I don't believe that he has any real ability." At this moment Yang Wenluan shook his head and said, "It's just that the family has made some achievements and put them on his head to suppress those old entrepreneurs so that he can inherit the family business in the future." The two were chatting when suddenly Guo Chongqing's seductive female secretary came over and said with a smile, "Young Master Yang, young Master Guo invited you over to ask you something." "What? Young Master Guo invited me?" Yang Wenluan was overwhelmed by the unexpected favor. He hurriedly said, "Then I'll have to trouble you to lead the way." The female secretary brought Guo Chongqing to a luxurious presidential private room. Yang Wenluan hurriedly stepped forward and bowed respectfully like a little brother meeting his big brother and said, "Young Master Guo, you called for me?" There were fragrant Cuban cigars on the coffee table, and a bottle of red wine from Latteberg worth at least 300,000 Wuxia dollars was opened. Guo Chongqing was drinking wine and chatting with a few wealthy young masters from Singapore. Among them there was no lack of hotel tycoons and shipping tycoons who ranked highly on the Forbes list. If this group of people stomped their feet together, it would be a problem for the few hundred people in Singapore to even eat, drink and travel. "Xiaoyang, you're here." Seeing him come in, Guo Chongqing only nodded slightly. He did not give up his seat and continued to chat with the rich people. It could be said that he was extremely arrogant. Yang Wenluan was only a component supplier for the Guo family shipping group. If it wasn't for the fact that Guo Chongqing wanted to get some information from him, Guo Chongqing wouldn't even bother with him. Although Guo Chongqing ignored him, Yang Wenluan remained very patient. He even poured wine and cut cigars for the rich people present like a waiter. He acted like a lackey. As for Li Xinyue, she didn't even have the qualifications to serve Guo Chongqing. She could only stand by the side like a quail. Listening to their conversation, Li Xinyue was extremely shocked. Wow, so that female singer from Singapore had just been dumped by Guo Chongqing. Wow, so that young male celebrity was also groomed by Guo Chongqing. Guo Chongqing chatted with the rich people for a full 3 minutes before he looked at Yang Wenluan and said, "Xiaoyang, you're from the mainland. Do you know the guy who bid with me? His name is Jiang Tian, the crown prince of the Medicine King group. In university he was in the same school as me. He was even in the same class as my secretary Miss Li." Yang Wenluan hurriedly replied. "Medicine King group. I've heard of them." A hotel tycoon smiled disdainfully and said, "They're in the Chinese medicine business. They seem to be quite rich. It's just 100 billion in market value. In Wuxia it's not bad, but in Singapore..." Another boss shook his head and snorted, "He's not even in the top 100. Li Xinyue was dumbfounded. This was Singapore. It was a small place, but there were so many rich people gathered here. They were rich and arrogant, and they didn't even care about the Medicine King group. No matter how rich he is, he's just a bumpkin from the mainland." Another shipping tycoon who seemed to have some background in the underworld said, "How dare he come to Singapore and steal from young Master Gua? He must be tired of living." He gritted his teeth and said, "Young Master Gua, just say the word and I'll find a few brothers with guns to kill him." Singapore was known to be one of the top 10 countries in the world in terms of honesty. However, for the rich and powerful, the law was just a toy in their hands. Jiang Tian. Guo Chongqing ignored him. He felt that the name was familiar, but he couldn't recall where he had heard it from. "I think Hong Yi and a few other people who have been buying array materials in Singapore for the past month are also with him." Guo Chongqing took a sip of red wine and asked, "What's his background?" This background was referring to his political background. The Guo family had many collaborations in the Wuxia market. Guo Chongqing had a deep understanding of the situation in Wuxia. He knew that many people in Wuxia's business circle were not just rich. They were often the representatives of political figures. If the Medicine King group had a market value of 100 billion, it would be nothing more than a little white rabbit in front of a ferocious tiger like the Guo family. However, if the Medicine King group had a deep political background, especially if it was related to Yan Jin, then it was not something he could deal with. He might need the help of his family or his father. Yang Wenluan didn't know much, so he winked at Li Xinyue. Li Xinyue quickly said, "His father is Jiang Zhixing. He used to be the county magistrate of Qixia County under Jinling. Now he seems to have been transferred to Jinling to become the chairman of a state-owned investment group. He is a government official. His mother is Zhang Wanqing. He's just a department-level cadre. What kind of background does he have?" Immediately many big bosses mocked. "The mayor of Qixia County in Jinling." Guo Chongqing mumbled to himself. Suddenly his face turned as white as a sheet of paper. He exclaimed, "It's him." He was shocked. That was the man who killed the master of the Chinese society in Singapore. Before anyone could react, Guo Chongqing got up and walked away. "Xiaoyang, you two come with me." The two looked at each other and quickly followed. When they got into Guo Chongqing's Mercedes-Benz, Li Xinyue boldly asked, "Young Master Gua, do you know Mr. Jiang?" Guo Chongqing was annoyed. "How can I answer your questions?" He glanced at Li Xinyue and said lightly, "Miss Li, you seem to know him quite well. How is your relationship with him? Can you invite him out?" Guo Chongqing only knew a little about martial arts and spells. He didn't know Jiang Tian's true strength. He thought that he could easily kill Jiang Tian with a few gunmen. Now he had the same plan. Getting rid of Jiang Tian, getting rid of a scourge for the family, that would be a great contribution. "Not bad. We met at the airport. He said that he wanted to see the Guo family." Li Xinyue said suspiciously. What was the relationship between Jiang Tian and the Guo family? Why did Guo Chongqing look so nervous? Guo Chongqing lit a cigarette and tapped his fingers on the steering wheel. After thinking for 3 minutes, he said firmly, "How about this? Invite him to the Guo family's banquet tonight and report his every move to me. This time he's dead." He wanted to get rid of Jiang Tian. Li Xinyue was shocked when she heard that. She had always heard Yang Wenluan bragging about Guo Chongqing's abilities. She knew that this man was a cold-blooded demon. Li Xinyue said awkwardly, "Young Master Guo, how did Jiang Tian offend you?" I apologize on his behalf. Please let him go. I can persuade him to give you the sachet. What are you thinking? I won't do anything to him. Guo Chongqing rolled his eyes at her and said lightly, Xiaoyang, your secretary is not very obedient. Li Xinyue, you don't want your job anymore, do you? Yang Wenluan was flustered and exasperated. It was not easy for him to climb up to young Master Guo's high branch. If he rejected him now, he might lose the 20 billion contract. That would be a huge loss. Li Xinyue was shocked. She thought about it for a while but finally nodded and said, Okay, I'll try. That's more like it. After this, I'll make you a branch manager. Yang Wenluan squinted his eyes. Jiangtian, oh Jiangtian. You're a big shot in Jinling, but this is Singapore. If you offend young Master Guo, you'll be played to death. Jiang Tian left the Millennium Hotel and went to a few auction houses with Hong Yi, Su Wenjie, Tao Fengshe and the others. He only returned to the Hilton Hotel in the evening. Do you know where Wang Chongyan is? In fact, Singapore was not big. Jiang Tian went around Singapore in a day and scanned the entire place with his divine sense. However, he did not find Wang Chongyan's place. Reporting to Grandmaster Jiang, in fact, we have been secretly inquiring about Wang Chongyan's seclusion location for the past few days. But it's a pity that no one knows about it. Adept Hong Yi had an apologetic expression on his face. Master Kong, why are you looking for Wang Chongyan? Su Wenjie bowed and asked. Haha, I killed so many people from the Chinese society on Mount Everest. Wang Chongyan is also a fierce and ruthless person. How can he let me go so easily? Jiang Tian sipped his tea and said lightly, the first move is to attack first. The one who strikes first gains the advantage and the one who strikes later suffers. If I don't go looking for him, should I wait for him to find me and kill me? This time I'm going to kill Wang Chongyang and wipe out the Chinese society. Everyone was shocked when they heard this. Everyone was dumbfounded. They could not believe what they were hearing. That was Wang Chongyang of the Chinese society. He was famous throughout Southeast Asia. He was like the Emperor of Singapore. Grandmaster Jiang actually wanted to make a move on him, and even wanted to flatten the entire Star Continent gathering. How domineering was this? Chapter 307. Master Kong, this battle is very dangerous. You have to be careful. Hong Yi the Enlightened was very worried. If Grandmaster Jiang wins this battle, you'll be able to shake Southeast Asia and bring glory to Huaxia's spell community. However, most of them were rubbing their hands together in excitement. Wang Chongyan, that old tortoise, is really good at hiding. Looks like I have to go to the Guo family and kill a few people to lure him out. Jiang Tian sneered. The Guo family of Nanyang? I'll send Master Kong over. Yeah, we have to witness this earth-shattering battle together. Su Wenjie and the rest said excitedly. At this moment, Jiang Tian's phone suddenly rang. He picked up the phone and said a few words before hanging up. He smiled and said, Forget it, I don't need you to send me. They're going to pick me up. Everyone was looking forward to it. Master Kong was finally going to make his move. I'm afraid they have already figured out your real identity. Could it be that Wang Chongyan is setting a trap? Someone said nervously. So what? In front of Grandmaster Zhang's monstrous strength, all schemes and machinations are nothing but trash. There were also people who were extremely confident. As the saying goes, the mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. However, who was the oriole this time? Jiang Tian sat in Li Xinyue's car and said with a smile, Interesting. Didn't you and Mr. Yang think that I'm not worthy of attending the Guo family's birthday banquet? How come now? Hee, how are you not qualified? You're the prince of the Medicine King group. Li Xinyue said with a stiff smile. I've stolen young Master Guo's favorite. He's not going to harm me, is he? Jiang Tian said meaningfully. Li Xinyue was shocked, but she acted as if nothing had happened. She smiled faintly and said, Hee, Jiang Tian, are you kidding me? The Guo family is a legal business family. Why would they harm anyone? Old Master Guo was called Guo Shihai. He was almost 100 years old, but his back was still straight and his voice was as loud as a bell. Today was Guo Residence's double celebration. The first was his 99th birthday, and the second was the engagement of his granddaughter, Guo Lily, and Wang Zhongyan's great-great-grandson Wang Zhibua. That was Wang Chongyan, the state preceptor of Xingzhou. He was like a retired emperor, and even the prime minister had to be courteous to him. Wang Zhongyan was like a god in the eyes of the rich and powerful in Singapore's upper-class society. Therefore Guo Shihai was extremely proud of him. Guo Shihai was wearing a brand new red and black Shouzi embroidered satin jacket, and a jade thumb ring with a very high waterhead. He was standing at the gate in high spirits welcoming the guests. Since he was the birthday boy, there was no need for him to personally stand at the entrance. However, the person who came back this time was Lao Wu's superior, Deputy Director Li of the Xingzhou police station. Sounded like he was a bureau chief, but that was because of the Singapore system. In Wuxia he would be a deputy minister. Ever since the Republic of China, Guo Shihai understood a principle. No matter how the world changed, there was nothing wrong with currying favor with the person who held the gun in his hands. The moon was bright and the stars were sparse. The lights were bright, and the melodious sound of a piano could be heard in the huge European-style manner. A pianist invited from Croatia was passionately playing Flight of the Bumblebee. There were many guests on the lawn. The rich and powerful appeared one after another, and there was no lack of politicians among them. The men were dressed in suits and leather shoes, while the women had exquisite makeup on. Some were dancing while others were holding champagne in their hands, politely chatting and exchanging pleasantries. The parking lot outside the gate was filled with luxury cars. There were Maseratis, Rolls-Royces, Mirages, Mercedes-Benz and BMWs. They were all very common, and together they were worth a few hundred million yuan. It was enough to open a large-scale car show. Looking back at his huge European-style manor, Guo Shihai couldn't help but feel proud. He had bought this manor from a fallen British aristocrat years ago. It covered an area of about 200 acres, and it had Roman pillars, a large vault, and was built with marble. It was very imposing. If it was during the British colonial period, people without aristocratic titles would not be allowed to live here. It was still better in a capitalist society. The weather outside was a little hot. Eighth concubine brought a cup of iced tea, fanned him with a small folding fan and persuaded him, "Sir, go in and wait, we don't know when Director Li will come." "Woman, what do you know?" Guo Shihai frowned and scolded, waiting patiently. A low-key black Audi A6 drove into the parking lot. The driver got out of the car and opened the back door. A middle-aged man in a black and blue police uniform got out of the car. He straightened the collar of his uniform and suddenly saw Guo Shihai standing at the door. He hurriedly stepped forward and exclaimed, "Sir, how could I dare to accept this honor?" Guo Shihai smiled and said, "You're too kind, old man. I hope Director Li can forgive me for not coming out to meet you." Deputy Director Li smiled and said, "Old man, you must be joking. Come, bring me my birthday gift." The orderly brought over a box and opened it. Inside was a pair of Daoist chicken cup from the Ming dynasty. It was worth at least a few million new dollars. "Director Li, you've come to my humble abode. This old man is already very grateful. How can I accept such a generous gift?" Of course. Fifth brother and I are good brothers, so you're my elder." Director Li walked in hand with Guo Shihai and said with a smile, "Mr. Prime Minister said that you're the industry giant of Singapore, the economic pillar, and the indelible contribution to the economic boom of Singapore." When they passed by the gate, several policemen arranged by fifth brother of the Guo family to guard the gate followed and shouted in unison, "Salute." Director Li's arrival could be said to have pushed the birthday banquet to a new climax. There were all sorts of people in the courtyard, including the rich, high-ranking officials, the big brothers of society, cultural celebrities and models. The huge lawn was full of guests, eating Western pastries and drinking champagne. From time to time there would be a ballroom dance. The courtyard was filled with people, music, chatter and laughter. Director Li was invited into the banquet hall. The banquet here was different from the Western buffet outside. It was the Manchu Han Imperial banquet set by the Millennium Hotel. The old man was fond of such things, and a table of dishes cost more than 100,000 RMB. Looking at the big longevity character hanging above the door of the banquet hall, Director Li joked, "You should add a happy character." The Guo family and the Wang family's marriage is a powerful alliance that shook the entire Singapore. At this time, everyone's eyes were on a young man sitting at the table. Their eyes were full of respect. This man was in his early 30s. He was wearing a long blue robe and had an otherworldly aura. Wang Zhibua, the great-great-grandson of Wang Chongyan. He had received the true teachings of Wang Chongyan and lived up to everyone's expectations. He had reached initial transcendent state before the age of 30 and was known as a grandmaster. He had also mastered Dharma spells and was an expert in physiognomy, feng shui, and plum blossom divination. Many Gong Tao masters, Gu masters, and Gu Man Tong were no match for him. Now that Wang Chongyan was in seclusion, only a few tycoons in Southeast Asia were able to hire him. He was in charge of many affairs of the Chinese Society of Singapore. In the vast Singapore, he was known as the Young Grandmaster. He smiled humbly and cupped his fists. "My name is Wang Zhibua. It is an honor to meet you, Director Li. So this is Lin from the Wang family? What a handsome young man. Lily, Uncle wants to congratulate you. You're a perfect match for each other," Director Li said with a smile. The status of the Wang family was high. Marrying Wang Zhibua was more prestigious than marrying the son of the Prime Minister. Beside him, Guo Lily was wearing a red backless evening gown and a pair of slender high heels. She was tall and slender and her full breasts were bulging like a little princess. She smiled shyly and said, "Thank you, Uncle Li. Let's try to have a baby soon." Director Li laughed heartily. "Indeed, Zhibua Lily, you have to do your best." Guo Shihai liked his grandson-in-law more and more. He was a martial arts master and was well-versed in Dharma spells. With such a powerful man around, no one would dare to mess with the Guo family. Now that he had a marriage alliance with the Wang family, his sights were no longer limited to Singapore. Instead, he had set his sights on Southeast Asia and even the Japanese and South Korean markets. The hall was filled with laughter. Everyone was happy and harmonious. Guo Chongxing sipped a glass of red wine and gave Guo Lily a cold smirk. "Little girl, that devil Jiang Tian is about to attack us, but you don't know anything about it. This time my father and I have arranged a lot of police and hired thugs. Later it will be up to us, father and son, to turn the tide. Let's see who Grandpa values more." The car stopped at the entrance of the Guo family manor. Li Xinyue could not control herself anymore. Her face was pale and her voice trembled. "Jiang Tian, don't go in." Why? Jiang Tian had already opened the car door and was about to step out. "Guo Chongxing wants to deal with you." Li Xinyue gritted her teeth and said, "They want me to lure you here. I know it's my fault, but I'm in a difficult position. If I don't do it, Yang Wenluan will fire me. You should leave now." Yang Wenluan came out to welcome them. He was furious when he heard that. "Li Xinyue, what are you talking about? Shut up. Jiang Tian, let's go in now." "I know." Jiang Tian walked toward the entrance of the Guo family manor. "Then why aren't you leaving? Don't you know how scary the Guo family is?" Li Xinyue quickly got out of the car and chased after him. She suddenly realized something and said, "Are you here to apologize? It's good too. Did you bring the sachet? I'll plead for you. Just because of that, I'll spare your life." Jiang Tian said calmly. "What did you say?" Yang Wenluan and Li Xinyue looked at Jiang Tian in confusion. Jiang Tian strode toward the entrance. Two police officers stopped him and said coldly, "Sir, please show us your invitation." "Guo Lily, you owe me 10 billion. It's time to pay it back." Jiang Tian sneered and suddenly used the demonic dragon roar. The sound waves surged and a powerful aura spread in all directions. Boom. With a bang, it was as if a level 18 hurricane had swept past. The stainless steel telescopic door was deformed and twisted before it finally shattered. It rolled out like an iron dragon. The sound waves were like waves crashing against the shore. Many guests on the lawn were thrown off their feet. The stainless steel buffet tables were all sent flying. It was a mess. A few police officers nearby were sent flying 7 to 8 meters away. They were bleeding from their orifices and passed out. You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.